Sophia, I bought this car for work, not to drive you around. Go to the bus stop and take the bus, my husband declared and threw my bag out of the car we had bought with our shared money, while he himself drove his mother to the beauty salon. I didn't say a word and decided to go into my husband's garage. But when he returned to park the car in the garage, he was left speechless when he saw inside I stood on the roadside, watching the car disappear, the one in which my husband James was taking his mother to the beauty salon. My bag lay in the dust by my feet, documents and a makeup pouch scattered out of it. A lump of resentment rose in my throat, but I stubbornly held back my tears. I would not give him the satisfaction of seeing me broken. Not today. 10 years ago, when James and I had just met, everything was completely different. He worked as a manager in a construction company. I taught English at a language school. We met by chance at a mutual friend's birthday party. James immediately drew attention to himself. Tall, well-built, with a confident stride and a charming smile. He courted me gracefully but without extravagance. He gave me wildflowers instead of roses, took me to small, cozy cafes instead of expensive restaurants, and this sincerity was disarming. A year later, we got married. The wedding was modest, only our closest ones. My mother was still alive back then, and she immediately loved James like her own son. But his mother, Margaret, from the very first day, looked at me with poorly concealed discontent. At the wedding, she pulled her son aside and whispered something into his ear for a long time, glancing in my direction. James only brushed it off and told me that his mother was just worried, like all mothers at the wedding of their only son. The first years of marriage were truly happy. We rented a small one-room apartment on the outskirts of the city and saved money for our own home. I kept teaching, even took on extra hours and private students. James didn't sit idle either. After his main job, he worked part-time on construction sites, did small repairs for acquaintances. Every penny we set aside into our shared savings. We even had a tradition. Every Sunday we would sit at the kitchen table, count our savings, and dream about our future house. Margaret lived separately, in a 2-room apartment in the city center, which she had after her divorce from James's father. They divorced when James was 15, and since then she raised him alone. Perhaps that's why she was so possessive of any woman near her son. At first, she came to us every weekend, always without warning. She could show up at 8 in the morning on a Saturday, while we were still asleep, and start knocking loudly on the door. James would jump up and run to open it, while I would throw on my robe and go put the kettle on. Margaret always found something to criticize. Dust on the shelves, soup cooked the wrong way, my hairstyle not to her liking. She especially disliked the fact that I worked. In her opinion, a married woman should stay at home and create coziness, not go into strangers' homes with lessons. I tried to explain that we were saving for an apartment, that my income was a significant part of our budget. But she only snorted and told James that a real man should provide for his family on his own. 3 years into our marriage, my mother died. Cancer took her within 6 months. I cared for her until her last day, running between the hospital, work, and home. James supported me as best as he could, but his mother during that time seemed to lose all sense. She constantly called, demanded attention, and vented imaginary illnesses. Once, when my mother was especially bad and I stayed overnight at the hospital, Margaret threw a tantrum that she was having a heart attack. James rushed to her in the middle of the night, and in the morning it turned out she had simply gotten too emotional over a TV show. After my mother's funeral, I inherited a small 2-room apartment in a residential district. The apartment needed renovation, but it was our first own place. James and I were happy. Finally, no more paying rent, all our money could go into repairs and furnishing. James took time off, and together we started working. We stripped old wallpaper, leveled the walls, replaced plumbing. We worked from dawn till dusk, collapsing with exhaustion, but we were happy. Margaret took our move as a personal insult. Now we lived further away, a whole 40 minutes by bus. She started calling several times a day, complaining about loneliness, reproaching James for being heartless. He was torn between us, trying to please everyone, but only making things worse. His mother demanded that he come to her every day after work, help around the house, take her to doctors. Yet the doctors said she was completely healthy for her 58 years. Then something happened that changed our lives completely. James was laid off. The construction company went bankrupt, and he was left without a job. At first, he actively looked for a new one, went to interviews, sent out resumes. But time passed, and no offers came. The construction market was in crisis, staff cuts everywhere. After 2 months of unsuccessful searching, James began to give up. He spent more and more time at home, glued to the TV or computer. When I tried to talk, he snapped back, saying I didn't understand how humiliating it was for a man to live off his wife. I kept working, even increased my workload. Took all possible hours at the language school, private lessons, translations. Came home late at night, exhausted, and James would meet me with reproaches. Why so late? Why no dinner? Why is the house a mess? I tried to explain that I was working myself to the bone so that we had enough to live on, but it only made him angrier. Margaret fueled the fire. She would come almost every day while I was away, cook James his favorite meal, iron his shirts, clean the apartment. And then sighed demonstratively in my presence about what a bad wife I was, how her son was hungry and neglected. James said nothing to defend me, sometimes even agreed with his mother. After 6 months of unemployment, James announced that he wanted to start his own business. To go into freight transport. For that, he needed a vehicle, preferably a minivan or a small truck. The idea seemed reasonable. There was indeed demand for such services in the city. But where would we get the money for a vehicle? Our savings were long gone, we barely made ends meet on my salary. Margaret suggested selling her apartment in the center, buying a smaller one on the outskirts, and using the difference to buy a car for James. I was against it. It was her apartment, her property, why should she sacrifice her comfort? But James was fired up with the idea. He spent whole days searching options, calculating, planning. For the first time in a long while, I saw him enthusiastic, full of energy. In the end, Margaret sold her apartment and bought a one-room place in our district, in the neighboring building. With the difference, we bought a used minivan. Or rather, we bought it with shared money. I put in all my savings, which I had been keeping for a rainy day, about $10,000. James registered the business, made advertisements, started looking for clients. At first, things went well. James transported goods, helped with moves, delivered building materials. The money was enough for us to live on, even a little left to save. I breathed easier, thinking the worst was behind us. But Margaret now lived so close and took full advantage of it. She came to us several times a day. In the morning for some salt, at lunch to sit and chat, in the evening to borrow something. James didn't see a problem with it, but I felt under siege. Then the oddities began. James started coming home late, explaining it with urgent orders. He brought home less and less money, saying clients delayed payments, that competition was high, prices had to be lowered. I offered to help with the bookkeeping, to look at the documents, maybe together we could find a way to optimize expenses. But James got angry, accused me of mistrust, said I was meddling in something that wasn't my business. Margaret, of course, took her son's side. She gave me an entire lecture about how a wife should trust her husband, support him, not control his every move. I tried to explain that I wanted to help, that I had experience keeping records since I handled accounting at the language school. But my mother-in-law only snorted and said that teaching kids English and running a business were two different things. A year passed since we bought the vehicle. James had almost stopped contributing money to the family budget. All expenses fell back onto my shoulders again. Groceries, utilities, clothes, medicine. I worked like cursed, took on any side job. Translated documents at night, tutored on weekends, even worked as a waitress at banquets. James pretended not to notice my exhaustion. And if I tried to talk about money, he immediately started shouting that I was mercenary, only cared about money, and didn't understand how hard it was to run a business. Margaret regularly supplied her son with money. I saw her hand him envelopes, but I pretended not to notice. My pride didn't allow me to humiliate myself and start arguments over his mother's money. But inside I boiled with resentment and anger. I had put my last savings into that vehicle, worked tirelessly, while James spent money on who knows what, and still had the nerve to reproach me. The climax came 3 months ago. I received a bonus for a successful project at the language school. $7,500. A huge amount by our standards. I planned to finally finish the renovations in the apartment, buy new furniture, maybe even go on vacation. We hadn't been to the sea for 5 years. But James said the car needed a major overhaul, otherwise it would break down completely. He showed me some papers from the auto shop, an estimate for $10,000. He said that if we didn't fix it now, it would cost more later, and without the car he couldn't work. I gave him the bonus. I added another $2,500 from what I had managed to save. James took the money and went to the auto shop. He came back a week later, said the car was like new, now he could work without worries. But for some reason, orders didn't increase. He still didn't bring any money home. And a month later I accidentally saw a conversation on his phone with some Evan. They were discussing James buying an expensive watch for $9,000. Exactly the amount I had given for the car repairs. I didn't make a scene. I just packed my things and left for my friend's place for a few days. I needed to think, to process, to understand what to do next. My friend Marina listened to me and said bluntly, James is using you, living at your expense, spending your money on his whims. And his mother covers for him. They're both parasites feeding off you, and you let them. I knew she was right, but I couldn't make myself believe it. 10 years of marriage, how could I erase all of that? I returned home 3 days later. James greeted me coldly, didn't even ask where I had been. Margaret was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea from my favorite mug. She looked at me with disdain and said, "Had your fun? Now you've come back?" "Of course you did. Where else would you go without James? He puts up with your ingratitude, and you still play the victim." I kept silent, went into the bedroom, and lay down. I didn't have the strength for a fight or a confrontation. Since then we had lived like strangers under one roof. James came home late, slept on the couch in the living room. In the mornings he left early, without having breakfast at home. Margaret came while he was away, demonstratively cooked meals just for the two of them, leaving notes, James's lunches in the fridge. I pretended not to notice the stabs. I worked, came home, locked myself in the bedroom with my laptop and translations. And then this morning everything reached its breaking point. I was running late for an important meeting with a potential client who wanted private lessons for his children. The buses were unreliable, and a taxi at rush hour cost a fortune. James was going into the city, and I asked him to give me a ride. It would have taken just a 5-minute detour to drop me off at the office center. James agreed at first, but as we were leaving the apartment, Margaret appeared. She was dressed to the nines. Full makeup, her best dress, handbag, and heels. It turned out James had promised to take her to a beauty salon on the other side of the city. Her appointment was at 10 a.m., a very important procedure, she couldn't be late. And if he drove me first, he wouldn't make it in time. I suggested a compromise, let's go to the salon first, it's 10 minutes, then you can drop me off on the way back. But Margaret was outraged. She didn't just need to get to the salon, James had to wait for her there and then take her shopping afterward. That would take several hours. James was silent, looking first at his mother, then at me. And then he said the very words that made the ground disappear beneath my feet, "Sophia, I bought this car for work, not to drive you around. Go to the bus stop and take the bus." He opened the door and literally pushed me out of the car. My bag flew out after me, its contents spilling. Documents scattered across the asphalt. Margaret sat in the front seat with a satisfied smile. James got behind the wheel and drove off without even glancing back. I gathered my things from the ground, brushed off the documents. Of course, I was late for the meeting. The client waited 15 minutes and left. A potential income of $1,500 a month vanished into thin air. I sat on a bench in the park, wondering what to do next. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to go to work either. I wanted to disappear, dissolve, stop existing in this reality where the closest person had betrayed me for his mother's whim. And then it struck me. James had a garage in a cooperative on the other side of the city. He bought it back at the beginning of our marriage with the money his father had given him after the divorce from Margaret. The garage was his personal space, where I wasn't allowed. Supposedly he kept tools, car parts, did men's stuff there. I didn't have the keys, but I knew where James kept a spare set. Under a stone by the entrance, a habit from his childhood. Why did I go there? I don't know myself. Maybe I wanted to find answers to the questions that had tormented me in recent months. Where was the money going? What was James really doing? Why was the car, which was supposed to feed the family, being used as his mother's personal transport? Or maybe I just wanted to cross the line, to invade his personal space the way he had invaded my life, destroying all my dreams and hopes. The garage cooperative was on the outskirts of an industrial zone. Long rows of identical metal boxes, narrow driveways between them. James's garage was at the very end, number 123. I found the key under the stone, where it always was. The lock opened with difficulty, apparently not oiled in a long time. The heavy metal door creaked and gave way, and I stepped inside. The first thing that caught my eye was the order. Perfect, almost sterile order. Tools hung on the walls, each in its place. Shelves with neatly arranged boxes, cans, and containers. A spotless workbench without a single stain. It was so unlike James, who at home scattered his things everywhere and never cleaned up after himself. I walked deeper into the garage. Against the far wall stood an old sofa covered with a plaid blanket. Beside it was a coffee table with an ashtray, though James didn't smoke. At least not around me. On the table lay some papers. I picked up the top sheet. It was a rental contract. James was renting out our car to some company. $15 an hour, minimum 8 hours a day. That was $120 a day, more than $3,500 a month. And that was just from one contract. I looked through the other papers. 3 more contracts with different companies and private individuals. James was renting the car in shifts to different drivers who worked in taxis and deliveries. He himself only sat behind the wheel to drive his mother on her errands. The rest of the time the car was in use and bringing in money. A lot of money. At least $10,000 a month. And there was more. In a box under the workbench I found bank statements. James had 3 accounts in different banks that I hadn't known about. Money from the car rentals was regularly deposited there. The balances were impressive. More than $100,000 in total. $100,000 he had been saving while I wore myself out with 3 jobs just to pay the bills and buy groceries. In another box were receipts and invoices. James had been buying expensive electronics, branded clothing, watches, jewelry. But not for me. Judging by the clothing sizes and the women's jewelry, he had another woman. There were photographs too. James with his arm around a young blonde by the sea. They were smiling, looked happy. On the back was a date. 2 months ago. The time he told me he was going to a meeting with a big client in a neighboring state. I sat down on the sofa, trying to process what I had seen. 10 years of marriage had been a lie. James hadn't just used me, he had cynically deceived me, profited from my labor, built a parallel life with another woman. And Margaret? Did she know about all of this? Judging by how confident she behaved, how openly she despised me, she knew, and she approved. In the desk drawer I found another interesting document. A purchase agreement for an apartment. James was buying a 3-room apartment in a new development. Price, $250,000. An initial payment of $100,000 had already been made. The closing date was set for next week. In the buyer field were listed James and Margaret. They were planning to live together in the new apartment, and me, it seemed, they intended simply to throw out. I took out my phone and started photographing the documents. All the contracts, statements, receipts, invoices. These were proofs of deception that would be useful in the divorce. James was hiding income, acquiring property behind my back, cheating. Enough grounds for the court to take my side. Suddenly I heard the sound of a car pulling up. My heart froze. Could James have come back? But he was supposed to be waiting for his mother at the salon, and those procedures take hours. I peeked out the window. Our minivan was driving into the cooperative lot. James was at the wheel, Margaret beside him. Why had they come back so early? It was too late to hide. The garage was in a dead end, with only one exit. I couldn't get past them. I decided to face them head on. Let them explain, let them justify themselves. I now had proof of their deception, and I wasn't going to stay silent. James parked in front of the garage and got out of the car. Seeing the door open, he frowned and quickened his pace. Margaret scurried after him, muttering something displeased. When James saw me standing in the middle of the garage with a folder of documents in my hands, his face went slack. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Margaret peered over his shoulder, and her eyes widened in horror. But their reaction wasn't to me. They were looking past me, at something behind my back. I turned and froze. On the sofa sat the very blonde from the photograph. Young, beautiful, in an expensive dress and diamond earrings. She looked at us with a slight smile, as if savoring the effect. "Hello, darling," she purred, addressing James. "Didn't expect me so early. I decided to surprise you. And this must be your wife. The very Sophia you've told me so much about. Nice to finally meet you. My name is Anna, and your husband and I have things to discuss. All together." James turned so pale I was afraid he might faint. His hands were trembling, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Margaret recovered first. She stepped forward decisively, pushing her son aside, and stared at the blonde with undisguised hostility. "What right do you have to be here? This is private property. Leave immediately or I'll call the police." Anna laughed. A clear, mocking laugh filled the garage. She rose from the sofa, straightened her dress, and took a few steps toward us. There was the poise of someone who knows exactly what she's doing. "The police? Oh, that will be interesting. And what will you tell them, Margaret? That your son's mistress came to a garage for which he himself gave me the keys? Or will you tell them how the two of you deceive his wife while she works herself to the bone at 3 jobs? How do you know my name?" The mother-in-law hissed. "James told me a lot about you. About what a caring mother you are, how you help him. How shall I put it? Optimize the family budget. By the way, how did the salon procedure go? Judging by your look, you didn't even make it inside. I watched the scene as if from outside. It was like a bad play where the actors forgot their lines and were improvising on the fly. Only this was my life, my husband, my family. And this stranger knew more about us than she should have." James finally found his voice. "Anna, what are you doing here? We agreed to meet somewhere else, later. Plans changed, darling. You see, I learned something. For example, that you're planning to buy an apartment with Mommy, not with me as you promised. 3 months ago you swore you'd divorce your wife and we'd start a new life. Remember?" I gripped the drawer, still clutching the folder of documents. 3 months ago. That was exactly when James took my bonus supposedly for the car repairs. So he'd planned the divorce even then. And all these months he pretended, lived with me under the same roof, knowing he'd leave soon. Margaret tried to seize control of the situation. "Young lady, I don't know what my son promised you, but you must understand. He is a married man, he has obligations to his family. Any relationship with you was a mistake that needs to be corrected." "A mistake?" Anna laughed again. "The mistake was believing your son. But you know what? I'm not the kind to let myself be used. James, sweetie, remember those papers you signed at my place after a glass of wine? You were so relaxed, so trusting. You didn't even read what you were signing. What is she talking about? Margaret turned to her son. What papers? James looked as if the ground were giving way beneath him. I don't know, Mom. I honestly don't remember. Maybe some work papers. Anna helped me with the paperwork. The blonde took folded sheets from her handbag. Let me refresh your memory. A loan agreement for $75,000 secured by your share in the garage and the lease rights to the car. The repayment term expired a week ago. So now, according to the terms, all of this passes into my ownership. That's a forgery. James tried to snatch the papers, but Anna nimbly stepped back. I never signed anything like that. I have a video of you putting your signature. And witnesses. And notarization. Want to challenge it? Be my guest, we'll meet in court. Just keep in mind, a lot of interesting things will come out there. For example, where a supposedly unemployed family man gets money for gifts to his mistress. Or how you hide income from your wife. I rose from the drawer. My head cleared, the pieces of the mosaic were forming a complete picture. This Anna wasn't just a mistress. She was a con artist who had wrapped James around her finger the same way he wrapped me. The irony of fate. The one who had deceived and exploited for years had fallen into his own trap. You know what? I said, surprised at how calm my voice sounded. Sort it out among yourselves. James, here are your documents on hidden income. I photographed everything. Copies are already with my lawyer. Tomorrow I'm filing for divorce and division of property. Given that you concealed income, the court will be on my side. Sophia, wait, James lunged toward me, but I stepped back. It's not what it looks like. I can explain. Explain what? That you rented out the car we bought with our shared money and pocketed the profit? That you have a mistress? That you and your mother were planning to buy an apartment and throw me out? What exactly do you want to explain? Margaret suddenly clutched her heart and collapsed to the floor. James rushed to her, began unbuttoning the collar of her dress, searching her purse for medicine. I knew this performance. My mother-in-law regularly staged heart attacks when things slipped out of her control. Usually it worked. James panicked, called an ambulance, and then did everything his mother wanted just to avoid upsetting her. But today the show misfired. Anna walked over to Margaret and looked at her closely. Pulse is steady, breathing normal, pupils not dilated. Not a bad performance, but I worked as a nurse before I went into another business. So you can get up, Margaret. Your heart is perfectly fine. My mother-in-law opened her eyes and glared at the blonde. Get away from me, you bitch. Because of women like you, families are destroyed. Really? And who is destroying this family? Me, who showed up in your son's life 6 months ago? Or you, who spent 10 years turning him against his wife, encouraging deceit, teaching him to use people? Like mother, like son, as they say. I silently headed for the exit. There was nothing more for me to do in that garage, in that life, with those people. But James blocked my path. You can't just walk away. We've been together 10 years. Does that mean nothing to you? That's exactly why I'm leaving. 10 years I believed, loved, supported. And what did you do all those years? Lied, used me, humiliated me. Enough, James. I'm done being a cash cow for you and your mother. It's all because of her. He pointed at Anna. She seduced me, got me drunk, forced me to sign those papers. I'm the victim, Sophia. We're both victims. Anna snorted. Victim? You pursued me for 3 months. Said you were unhappy in your marriage, that your wife didn't understand you, that your mother smothered you with control. You promised to divorce, to start a new life. And what did you do? Kept living a double life, lying to everyone. You know what? I even pity your wife. She deserves better. Don't pity me, I replied. Better think about how you'll split your spoils. I'm going to live my own life. This time James didn't try to stop me. I walked out of the garage and took a deep breath. The air felt unusually fresh after the stale atmosphere of lies and betrayal. I pulled out my phone and called a taxi. While waiting for the car, I heard a quarrel erupting in the garage. Margaret yelling at Anna, Anna shouting back just as loudly. James tried to break them up, but in vain. In the taxi, I called Marina. My friend listened to a brief account of events and said she was waiting for me with wine and chocolate. Then I called the language school and took the rest of the day off. The director, knowing my situation, agreed. The rest of the day passed in a strange numbness. I sat at Marina's, sipping wine in small sips and trying to comprehend what had happened. 10 years of life turned out to be a fiction. The man I thought was closest to me was a stranger. The family I had sacrificed everything for was an illusion. But strangely enough, I didn't feel empty. On the contrary, somewhere deep inside, a sense of liberation was taking shape, as if the heavy chains I had dragged all those years had finally fallen off. I was free. Free from lies, manipulation, humiliation. Free to start a new life. In the evening, an unknown number called. I didn't want to answer, but Marina advised me to pick up. Maybe it was something important. Sophia? It's Anna. We need to talk. What is there to talk about? You got what you wanted. The garage, the rights to the car. James is your problem now. Not quite. You see, I'm not going to tie my life to him. This was, let's call it, a business project. But I'm not the heartless bitch I might seem. I have an offer that could benefit us both. I'm not interested in deals with my husband's mistress. Ex-husband, correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm not exactly a mistress. More like an instrument of retribution. Want to meet tomorrow? I'll tell you a lot of interesting things about James and his dealings. Information that will help you get everything you're entitled to in the divorce, and even more. Why would you do that? Let's call it female solidarity. Or revenge on men who think they can use women without consequences. Think about my offer. I'm free all day tomorrow. She gave me the address of a cafe downtown and hung up. I looked at Marina. My friend shrugged. What do you have to lose? Go, listen. Worst case, you waste an hour. Best case, you learn something useful for the divorce. The night passed without sleep. I lay on Marina's couch staring at the ceiling. The day's events, fragments of conversations, faces kept circling in my mind. James, pale with fear. Margaret, faking a heart attack. Anna, with her mocking smile and cold calculation in her eyes. Who was James, really? A loving husband who lost his way? Or a calculating manipulator who from the very beginning saw me only as a source of income? When did the lies begin? From the first day we met? Or gradually, unnoticed, under the influence of his mother and circumstances? I recalled our first dates. James had been so attentive, caring. I remember him waiting for me after work with a thermos of hot tea because he knew I was always cold. How he taught me to drive, patiently explaining again and again. How he held my hand in the hospital when my mother was dying. Was all that just an act? Or maybe at first his feelings were sincere, and then something broke. Unemployment, financial problems, his mother's pressure. James couldn't handle it, chose the easy way out. Began to lie, first about little things, then more and more, until lying became his second nature. In the morning I decided to meet with Anna. Not because of the divorce information, but out of curiosity. Who was this woman who had managed to outwit the man who himself was a master of deceit? How did she know so many details about our family? And most importantly, what did she really want? The cafe turned out to be a small, cozy place with wooden furniture and fresh flowers on the tables. Anna was already waiting for me at a window seat. In daylight she looked older than she had yesterday. Not 25, as I had thought, but over 30. Traces of fatigue under skillfully applied makeup, fine lines around her eyes. "Thank you for coming," she said when I sat down across from her. "I wasn't sure you'd agree." Curiosity won out. "Who are you really?" Anna smiled. "Let's order coffee, and I'll tell you everything." We placed our orders. I got a cappuccino, she an Americano. The waitress brought the coffee and left. Anna took a sip and began to speak. "My name really is Anna, but I won't tell you my last name, it doesn't matter. 5 years ago I was in your place. A husband who turned out to be a liar and a gigolo, a mother-in-law who covered for him. Debts, cheating, humiliation. Only I wasn't as strong as you. I tried to kill myself. They revived me. 6 months in the hospital, a long recovery. I'm sorry," I said sincerely. "No need for pity. I got through it, became stronger. And I made myself a promise. If I ever met a bastard like that again, I'd make him pay. Not for revenge, but for justice. So that other women wouldn't suffer as I did." "And how did you find James?" "By chance. I work at a bank, in the Department for Troubled Loans. James came to apply for a loan to expand his business. He brought fake documents, tried to deceive us. I saw through him right away, but I pretended to believe him. I started digging, finding out who he was. I learned about you, about his mother, about the hidden income. And I decided to teach him a lesson. To seduce and deceive him? Not exactly. I simply gave him what he wanted. A beautiful young mistress, ready to admire his non-existent achievements. He told me all his secrets himself, signed the documents himself. I only created the conditions. And what will happen with the garage and the car? I don't intend to take them. The documents James signed are legally questionable. He was intoxicated, they could be challenged. But he doesn't need to know that. Let him suffer the fear of losing everything, the way you suffered all these years from the fear of being left without means to live. Why are you telling me this? Because I have information that will help you in the divorce. James not only hid the income from renting out the car. He has offshore accounts where he transferred money. Some of it is yours, the very money you gave him for car repairs, for the business. I can provide you with proof." Anna took a flash drive out of her bag and put it on the table. "Here are copies of all the documents. Bank statements, contracts, correspondence. With this, any lawyer will settle your divorce in your favor. James will not only have to give up half of the joint property but also compensate for what he stole. Why are you doing this? What do you want in return? Nothing. Consider it an act of justice. Or female solidarity. Or simply the desire to see someone who hurt others finally get what he deserves." I picked up the flash drive, turned it in my hands. A tiny piece of plastic that could change everything. With this evidence I could not only get divorced, but also secure myself a comfortable future. James would have to pay for all the years of deceit. "And what about you?" I asked. "James and his mother won't just let this go." Anna shrugged. "I'm leaving. I have a job offer in another city. By the way, if you want to start a new life, I can help with employment. Banks always need people with language skills, and you, as far as I know, have an excellent resume." "Thank you, I'll think about it." We finished our coffee, and Anna stood up. As she left, she handed me a business card. "My number, in case you need help or advice." "And Sophia," she hesitated, "don't blame yourself for not seeing the lies earlier. People like James are masters of manipulation. They know how to gain trust, how to make you believe. It's not your fault." She left, and I was alone with the flash drive in my thoughts. I ordered another coffee and opened the laptop I had brought with me. Inserted the flash drive and began looking through the files. What I saw exceeded all expectations. James hadn't just hidden income. He systematically siphoned money out of the family. Every time I gave him money for the business, he transferred it to accounts in other countries. Over 5 years, it amounted to more than $150,000. $150,000 of my money, earned through sweat and toil. There were other documents too. Correspondence between James and Margaret, where they discussed how best to squeeze money out of me. The mother advised her son to fake depression, to play on pity. The son reported every sum he received. They had planned my exit long before Anna appeared. They were simply waiting until enough money had been accumulated. One message stuck in my mind especially. Margaret wrote, "Just a little longer, and we'll be rid of that fool. We'll buy an apartment. You'll find a proper wife from a good family, not this penniless teacher. I always said she wasn't right for you." James replied, "Be patient, Mom. Just need to squeeze the last drops out of her. She'll get a bonus in December. That's at least another $7,500. Then we can divorce." I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking with rage. All these years I blamed myself for the problems in the family. Thought I wasn't a good enough wife, not understanding enough, not patient enough. But it turned out the problem wasn't me. I was the victim of a planned fraud. I went back to Marina and showed her the documents. My friend studied the files for a long time and then whistled. "Sophia, this is a ready-made criminal case. Fraud on a large scale. Your ex could get 5 years. I don't want a criminal case. I just want a divorce and what belongs to me. You're too kind. In your place, I'd throw that bastard behind bars for good. Maybe. But I don't want to spend years in court battles. I just want to close this chapter and move on." In the evening, James called. I didn't want to answer, but Marina advised me to hear what he had to say. To record the conversation. "Sophia, don't hang up. I need to talk to you. Urgently." "What's there to talk about, James?" "I think everything became clear yesterday. It's Anna. She's not who she says she is. She's a con artist, a fraud. She drugged me, forced me to sign papers. Now she's demanding money, threatening me. Sophia, I'm desperate. Only you can help." I almost laughed. Did he really think I'd believe that fairy tale? After everything I had learned? "James, I don't care what problems you have with your mistress. Sort them out yourselves. She's not a mistress. I mean, she was, but that was a mistake. I love only you, Sophia. I've always loved you. I just got confused. Mom was pressuring me. There were money problems. Let's start over. I'll change, I promise." "Too late, James. Tomorrow I'm filing for divorce. I have all the evidence of your schemes. I suggest you find a good lawyer." "What evidence? What are you talking about?" "Hidden income, offshore accounts, correspondence with your mother about how you plan to deceive me. More than enough for the divorce to go in my favor." Silence. Then James's voice changed, became harsh, threatening. "Where did you get this information? That bitch Anna gave it to you? Sophia, don't believe her. She forged everything, fabricated it. I don't have any offshore accounts. I have confirmations from the banks, James. So don't bother denying the obvious. You wouldn't dare use it. My mother wouldn't survive the shame. Her heart is weak. Your mother put on quite the show yesterday with her heart attack. And judging by the correspondence, her heart is healthy enough to plan fraudulent schemes." Silence again. Then James spoke, but in a completely different tone. Pleading, pitiful. "Sophia, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll give you the apartment, the car, all the money. Just don't ruin my life. If this comes out, I'll lose everything. My reputation, my chance to work. My mother won't survive it. Please. And did you think about my life when you deceived me all those years? When you took my money and spent it on your mistress? When you planned to throw me out of the house? It was a mistake. Foolishness. I regret it. Give me a chance to make things right." "A chance? You had 10 years of chances. Every day you could have stopped lying, started living honestly. But you chose another path. Now pay for your choice. I hung up, not listening to his further pleas. Marina nodded approvingly. Good. Don't let him play on your pity. Men like him use pity as a weapon. That night I couldn't sleep again. But this time not from anxiety, rather from a strange exhilaration. For the first time in many years, I felt like the mistress of my own life. I was making the decisions, I was in control of the situation. It was unfamiliar and at the same time intoxicating. In the morning I met with my lawyer. Not the one Marina had recommended for a simple divorce, but a serious specialist in family law and financial fraud. Elizabeth Davis, a woman of about 50, with a sharp gaze and an iron grip. Marina had found her through acquaintances. They said she had never lost a case. Elizabeth carefully studied the documents from the flash drive. From time to time she raised her eyebrows or shook her head. When she finished, she leaned back in her chair and looked at me. Sophia, you're holding a winning hand. With this evidence, we won't just secure a favorable divorce. We can demand compensation for moral damages, restitution of all funds fraudulently diverted, and sole rights to the joint property. And James? What will happen to him? Frankly, if you want, we could initiate a criminal case. Fraud, tax evasion, possibly money laundering. But that's a long process, and there's no guarantee you'd get compensation. I recommend focusing on civil proceedings. Faster and more effective. I agree. I don't want to spend years in court. I just want what belongs to me and to start a new life. Reasonable. Then here's my plan. We file for divorce with a demand for division of property. At the same time, we present the evidence of hidden income and siphoned funds. We demand compensation equal to all the diverted sums plus moral damages. If your husband is smart, he'll agree to our terms without trial. If not, the court will side with us. How long will it take? If both parties agree, 1 to 2 months. If it goes to court, up to 6 months. But with the evidence you have, I think your husband will prefer to settle. We discussed the details, signed the agreement, and I left the office with the feeling that I had taken an important step. Not back into the past life, but forward into something new and unknown. On the way home, or rather, to Marina's, I thought about what lay ahead. Divorce, division of property, a new life. Where would I live? Stay in this city or leave? Continue teaching or find something new? So many questions, and not a single answer. The phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Sophia. This is Peter Robinson, director of the International Language School Lingua Plus. We received your resume and would like to invite you for an interview. My resume? I didn't send a resume to your school. Anna gave it to us. She said you're looking for a new job. We're interested in a specialist of your level. We're ready to offer you the position of Deputy Director of Academic Affairs with a salary 3 times your current one. Plus a company apartment if you agree to relocate. Our school is in Boston. Boston. I had always dreamed of living there. But I never dared to move. First my mother's illness, then marriage, obligations. This is very unexpected. I need to think. Of course. We're willing to wait for your decision. If you agree to come for the interview, we'll cover travel and accommodation. Think it over and call me. You have my number. I stood in the middle of the street, holding the phone in my hand. Anna had kept her word. She offered not just a job, but a new life in another city. Far from James, from Margaret, from all the memories. When I returned to Marina, I told her about the offer. My friend thought for a moment. You know, maybe it's for the best. A fresh start, in a new place. Boston is a beautiful city, a cultural capital. And the salary is good. Why not try? But what about the divorce? The court hearings? Elizabeth can handle it. You can attend the hearings or give power of attorney. In our age of technology, a lot can be done remotely. That evening I sat on the balcony for a long time, watching the city lights. This city had become foreign to me. Every street reminded me of the past, of years wasted. Maybe Marina was right. Maybe I needed to leave, to start over. The next day I called Peter Robinson and agreed to come for the interview. He was delighted, said the tickets and hotel were already booked. I'll see you in 3 days. A lot happened in those 3 days. Elizabeth filed for divorce. James received the summons and copies of the evidence of his schemes. The reaction didn't take long. First, Margaret called. Her voice wasn't commanding, as usual, but confused, almost pitiful. Sophia, what have you done? Why are you destroying the family? James is desperate. He doesn't eat, doesn't sleep. I beg you, reconsider. Margaret, you and your son destroyed the family. With your lies, greed, betrayal. I'm just drawing the line. But we're family. 10 years together. Doesn't that mean anything? Family? You never considered me family. I was your cash cow, your source of income. I read your correspondence with James. I know what you called me. Fool, penniless teacher. That was in the heat of the moment. I didn't mean it. Sophia, please, let's meet, talk. I'm ready to apologize, ready to fix everything. Too late, Margaret. Much too late. Then James himself appeared. He came to Marina's, stood at the door, begged to be let in. Marina called the police. James was taken away, warned not to return. But he didn't give up. He sent messages, flowers, even hired musicians to play under the windows. Marina poured water on them, neighbors called the police. The circus went on for 2 days. On the 3rd day I left for Boston. Marina saw me off at the airport, hugged me goodbye. Don't worry about me. I'll make sure your ex doesn't do anything stupid. And you'll fly, conquer the East Coast. I'm sure you'll succeed. On the plane I sat by the window, watching the clouds. Behind me was the old world. A world of lies, betrayal, disappointment. Ahead was a new one. Unknown, perhaps difficult, but mine alone. My phone vibrated. A message from Anna, good luck in your new life. You deserve happiness. P.S. James tried to get back the loan papers. Didn't work. Let him suffer. I smiled. What a strange woman Anna was. Appeared out of nowhere, destroyed the remnants of my marriage, and vanished. An avenging angel or a demon of destruction? Probably both. Beyond the window clouds drifted by, unfamiliar lands below. I closed my eyes and for the first time in a long while felt peace. Not happiness yet, it was too soon. Not joy, it still hurt. But peace. The sense that the worst was behind me. Boston greeted me with rain. Fine, sharp, cutting to the bone. I stood at Logan Airport with my suitcase, wondering if I had done the right thing. Was I running away from problems instead of facing them? But then I hailed a taxi, gave the hotel address, and the doubts retreated. I wasn't running away. I was starting a new life. A crucial difference. The hotel turned out to be small but cozy. Right in the center, near Boston Common. A room overlooking the park. I dropped my suitcase and went to the window. Below, people walked their dogs, jogged despite the rain. Beautiful. Unfamiliar. New. In the evening Elizabeth called. There's news. James is ready to sign the divorce agreement on our terms. He gives you the apartment, the car, and pays $100,000 in compensation. In return, he asks that you don't disclose information about his financial schemes. 100,000? But he siphoned off more than 150. Yes, but part of the funds is already spent. That's the maximum he can pay without selling his mother's property. I recommend you agree. A quick resolution is better than long trials. All right. I agree. When can we sign the documents? In a week. Will you be back after the interview? I'll make it. The next day was the interview. Lingua Plus was housed in a beautiful building in Cambridge. An old structure, lovingly restored. Modern classrooms, a library with rare editions, even a small theater for performances in foreign languages. Peter Robinson turned out to be an intelligent man of about 60. Gray hair, attentive eyes behind thin framed glasses. He showed me the school, introduced me to the staff, talked about development plans. We're looking not just for a teacher, but for someone who can help bring the school to a new level. You have an impressive resume, excellent references. Anna spoke very highly of you. You know Anna? She helped us with a loan for the building's renovation. A smart woman, pity she left. But she said you were more than a worthy replacement. Replacement? In what sense? Anna consulted us on financial matters. We hope you, with your administrative experience, can take on that function too. Of course, with appropriate pay. The interview went excellently. Peter Robinson offered me a contract on the spot. The salary truly was 3 times higher than at my old school. A company apartment 5 minutes away. Benefits, insurance, even 2 paid vacations a year. I signed the contract without hesitation. This was the kind of chance that comes once in a lifetime. I returned to my city 2 days later. The city met me with cold and grayness. After Boston with its historic buildings and parks, my city seemed provincial and dull. The meeting with James and the lawyers was tense. James looked terrible. He had lost weight, grown haggard, dark circles under his eyes. He looked at me pleadingly, but I avoided his gaze. Margaret came with her son. Sat beside him, holding his hand. She didn't look at me, only pursed her lips when the lawyer read out the terms of the agreement. The apartment passes into Sophia's full ownership. The car as well. James undertakes to pay compensation of $100,000 in 3 installments over the year. The first installment, $35,000, must be paid within a week of signing the agreement. James nodded without raising his head. He signed the papers with a trembling hand. When he handed me the car keys, our fingers touched. He looked up, and I saw so much pain in his eyes that for a moment I felt pity. But only for a moment. After signing all the documents, I was the first to leave. I didn't want to talk to anyone, didn't want to say goodbye. 10 years of my life ended with a stroke of a pen. The move to Boston took 2 weeks. I had to pack, settle matters with the apartment, say goodbye to colleagues at the old school. Marina helped with everything. She even offered to look after the apartment until I decided what to do with it. Sell or rent it out. On the day of departure, a message came from James, Sophia. I transferred the first installment. $35,000, as agreed. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you'll be happy. I checked the account. The money had indeed arrived. A strange feeling. For years I had given my last to support the family, and now I was receiving compensation for betrayal. Fair? Probably. Pleasant? No. That money reeked of treachery. Boston welcomed me with sunshine. Rare for the city, as the taxi driver taking me from the airport said. A good sign, miss. Boston accepts you. The company apartment turned out to be a 1-room place, but spacious. High ceilings, large windows, a view of a quiet courtyard. After the ostentatious luxury Margaret loved, this simplicity felt like a breath of fresh air. The first weeks at the new school flew by. There was plenty of work. I had to get to know the programs, the teachers, the students. The school was special. Children of diplomats, businessmen, the creative elite studied here. Demands were high, but so was the reward. Peter Robinson proved to be an excellent leader. He gave freedom in decision-making but was always ready with advice. The staff welcomed me warmly. I grew especially close with Jane Collins, the French teacher. A woman my age, also with a difficult past. Over coffee in the teacher's lounge, she told me her story. A gambler husband who lost all the family's savings. Debts, collectors, threats. Divorce, relocation, a new life. We understood each other at once. You know, she said one day, Boston has a tradition. New residents of the city must undergo an initiation. Take a walk at night along the waterfront, look at the city lights, make a wish. Will you come with me Friday? I agreed. On Friday we met at the waterfront. Jane brought a thermos of mulled wine, and we settled on a bench to watch the night city. Around us wandered fellow romantics. Couples embracing as they waited for the spectacle. Groups of young people with guitars. Lonely artists with easels. I looked at the lights of Boston Harbor and felt something shift inside me. The old Sophia, beaten down, worn out, used, was left somewhere in the past. And here, a new one was being born. Make a wish, Jane whispered. I closed my eyes and thought. What did I want? Happiness? Love? Success? No. I wanted to learn to live for myself. Not for my husband, not for my mother-in-law, not for anyone's expectations. For myself. A month passed. I had settled into the school, established a routine, even signed up for painting classes. I had always dreamed of painting, but there had never been time. Now I finally had it. And then the strange things began. First came a letter with no return address. Inside was a photograph. Jane and I at the waterfront. Taken from afar, but our faces were recognizable. On the back was a note, think you ran away? I'll always find you. I didn't recognize the handwriting. Neither James's nor Margaret's. Someone else's. I showed the photo to Jane. She frowned. Maybe someone from your past can't accept the breakup? James got everything he wanted. Freedom, money from his mistress. Why would he follow me? People are strange creatures. Sometimes letting go is harder than holding on. The next week the second incident happened. I was walking home from school in the evening when I felt someone behind me. I turned, no one. I quickened my pace, and the steps behind me quickened too. I darted into the nearest store, waited 10 minutes. When I came out, no one was there. But the feeling of being watched wouldn't leave. In the subway, on the street, even near the school, I felt someone's eyes on me. Paranoia or real danger? I decided to call Marina. My friend listened and grew worried. Sophia, I have news. Not good ones. Remember Anna, James's mistress? Well, she's gone missing. The police are searching. James claimed she stole his documents and money. And Margaret says Anna threatened both of them. Anna missing? But she told me she was leaving for another city. Maybe she did. But James filed a police report. And, Sophia, he mentioned you. Said you and Anna plotted together to ruin him. That's absurd. I saw Anna twice in my life. I know. But the police might start checking. Be careful. After talking to Marina, my anxiety grew. What if James wanted revenge? Or Margaret couldn't accept defeat? Or maybe it was tied to Anna's disappearance. I decided to cover myself. I went to the police station and reported the surveillance and the strange letter. A young detective listened politely but skeptically. You see, without specific threats there's little we can do. A photograph isn't a threat. The feeling of being followed could be coincidence. But we'll log your report. If anything concrete happens, call us immediately. I left the station disappointed. Concrete, huh? And what counts as concrete? An attack? Kidnapping? Murder? That evening Peter Robinson called. Sophia, could you stay late tomorrow after work? We're meeting a potential sponsor. I'd like you to be present. Of course, Mr. Robinson. The next day I stayed at school until evening. I prepared a presentation, checked documents. Around 7 Peter Robinson arrived with a guest. When I saw who it was, I nearly dropped the folder in my hands. Before me stood a man of about 45. Tall, fit, with gray at his dark temples. An expensive suit, a confident posture, the attentive gaze of gray eyes. But it wasn't that which froze me. I knew this man. Or rather, I had seen his photo. In James's documents. On those very papers about offshore accounts. It was Stephen Wilson, the man through whom James funneled money. Sophia, may I introduce Stephen Wilson, a successful entrepreneur and philanthropist. He's interested in supporting our school. Wilson extended his hand. Pleased to meet you, Sophia. I've heard about you. Heard? From whom? We shook hands. His palm was dry and firm. The next hour passed in a blur. We discussed the school's programs, development plans, needed funding. Wilson asked sharp questions, took notes in a small book. A professional, clearly knowing his business. But I couldn't focus. Questions spun in my mind. Was his presence here a coincidence? Did he know who I was? Was this connected to James? After the meeting, Peter Robinson left first, leaving us to finish the protocol. As soon as the door closed, Wilson set down his pen and looked at me. You recognized me, didn't you? I don't know what you mean. Don't bother, Sophia. I saw how you stiffened when Peter said my name. You've seen James's documents. How do you know? I know a lot. For example, that you divorced James 2 months ago. That you received compensation. That you moved to Boston to start a new life. And that someone is following you. His last words made me flinch. Is it you? Are you following me? No. But I know who is. And I can help. Why would you want to help me? What do you want? Wilson stood, walked to the window. He was silent a long time, staring at the evening city. Anna. Do you know that name? My ex-husband's mistress. Not exactly. Anna Wilson, is my younger sister. I felt the ground slip away beneath me. I sat on the nearest chair, trying to process what I had just heard. Your sister? But she said her name was Anna, never gave her last name. She uses different names. It's part of her, let's call it a hobby. She finds men who cheat on their wives and teaches them a lesson. A kind of revenge for her own pain. She told me that 5 years ago her husband betrayed her. Is that true? It's true. My former brother-in-law drove her to attempt suicide. After that, Anna changed. She became obsessed with the idea of justice. She started hunting down unfaithful husbands and fraudsters, making them fall for her, then destroying their lives. And you approve of this? No. But I can't stop her. She's an adult, fully competent. Technically, she doesn't break the law. All the documents her victims sign are legally sound. Why are you telling me this? Because Anna is missing. The last time she made contact was 3 weeks ago. She said she was finished with your husband and was heading to another city. But she never arrived. Her phone is off, her cards haven't been used. James filed a police report. He accuses her of fraud. Wilson gave a bitter smile. The thief cries, "Stop, thief." James knows where Anna is. I'm certain of it. You think he did something to her? Not him. He's too much of a coward. But his mother, that's another story. Margaret is capable of anything. Why would they? Anna already got what she wanted. She took the documents, humiliated James. Wilson returned to the table and sat across from me. The thing is, Anna discovered something more. Something that could completely destroy James and his mother. She called me, said she had found proof of a serious crime. But she didn't have time to tell me the details. The call was cut off, and after that she never reached out again. What crime? I don't know. But judging by what she managed to say, it was something from Margaret's past. Something connected to the death of her husband, James's father. But he died 15 years ago. James told me it was a heart attack. Wilson shook his head. That's the official version. But there were rumors that Margaret may have hastened his death. Their relationship was troubled. He wanted a divorce. She was about to lose everything. And then, very conveniently, a heart attack. You think she killed him? I'm not claiming that. But if Anna found evidence, if she threatened to make it public, Margaret could have gone to extremes. We sat in silence. The room was quiet, only the old clock on the wall ticking away the seconds. What do you want from me? I finally asked. Help. You still have access to James, to his mother. You can find out what happened to Anna. They hate me. They won't talk to me. But you still have their contacts. And most importantly, you have leverage. The offshore documents, the financial fraud. If you threaten to hand them over to the tax authorities, they'll talk. I'm not a blackmailer. And my sister might be in danger. Or already. He didn't finish the sentence, but I understood. I need to think. Of course. Here's my card. Call me when you decide. And Sophia, be careful. If my suspicions are correct, you might be in danger too. You know too much. He left, leaving me alone in the empty office. I sat staring at the card, wondering whether to get involved or not. On one hand, Anna had helped me, opened my eyes to the truth. On the other, I had just started a new life. Why stir up the past? But Wilson's words about surveillance wouldn't leave me in peace. If someone really was watching me, if I was in danger, I had to act. I got home late. A car with plates from my state was parked by the entrance. No one visible inside, but the engine was running. Strange. I quickened my pace, ran into the building, climbed to my floor. By my apartment door stood a man. Short, stocky, in a leather jacket. When he saw me, he stepped forward. Sofia Savalieva? Who's asking? Detective Thompson, Boston Police. He showed his badge. I need to talk to you about the disappearance of Anna Wilson. May I come in? This isn't a conversation for the hallway. I opened the door and let him in. The detective walked into the room, glanced around. You know Anna Wilson? We met twice. She was my ex-husband's mistress and helped you in the divorce process, as far as I know. How do you know that? The detective smiled. It's my job to know. Anna Wilson gave you documents compromising your husband. Correct? I don't see how that's related to her disappearance. Directly. Your ex-husband claims you and Wilson planned a scam together. That you got him drunk, made him sign papers for a fake loan, then blackmailed him. That's a lie. I met Anna after she had already started her relationship with James. Can you prove that? And can James prove his accusations? The detective pulled out a notebook and jotted something down. Sophia, I'm not accusing you. I'm just trying to sort things out. Anna Wilson vanished under strange circumstances. Her brother, Stephen Wilson, is worried. Your ex-husband accuses her of fraud. And you're caught between them. That's why I need your version of events. I told him everything I knew. About how Anna appeared in the garage, how she offered help, how she gave me the documents. I left out only today's conversation with Wilson. The detective listened carefully, occasionally clarifying details. When I finished, he closed his notebook. Thank you for the information. One more question. Have you noticed anyone following you recently? I stiffened. Why do you ask? Your ex-husband and his mother hired a private investigator. He followed you in your city, then came here. We found this out while checking their connections. So I wasn't paranoid. I really had been followed. Unfortunately, yes. But now we know about it. The investigator's been warned, he won't bother you again. And James and Margaret? They're under a travel ban. We're checking their involvement in the disappearance. The detective left, giving me his card and asking me to call if I remembered anything important. I was alone, trying to make sense of what was happening. Anna Wilson had disappeared. James and Margaret were under suspicion. A private investigator had been following me. And somewhere tangled in all of this was the mystery of James's father's death. I took out my phone and dialed the number on Wilson's card. Stephen Wilson? This is Sophia. I'm ready to help. Thank you. Let's meet tomorrow. I'll send you the address. The night passed without sleep. I lay listening to the sounds of the city and thought, what was I getting myself into? Was it worth risking my new life for a woman I barely knew? But Anna had helped me. Without her, I would still be living in deception, enduring humiliation, feeding parasites. She had given me a chance at freedom. Now it was my turn to help her. In the morning, Wilson's message arrived. The address was in an industrial zone on the outskirts of the city. A strange place for a meeting. I grew wary. What if it was a trap? What if Wilson wasn't who he claimed to be? I decided to be cautious. I texted Jane where I was going and with whom. If I didn't return by evening, she should call the police. Jane replied right away, Sophia, maybe you shouldn't go? It sounds dangerous. I have to. This man helped me, now he needs help. Then be careful. And keep your phone on. The industrial zone greeted me with emptiness and silence. Abandoned workshops, broken windows, rusted structures. A place where one could vanish without a trace. Wilson was waiting near an old warehouse. A black SUV with tinted windows stood nearby. Thank you for coming. Sorry for the strange location, but I need to show you something. Not for prying eyes. What exactly? He opened the warehouse door. Inside was a makeshift office. Desks with computers, boards covered with photographs and diagrams, several people working at monitors. Welcome to my search center. This is where we're looking for Anna. I looked around. On the boards were photos of James, Margaret, and Anna herself. City maps, phone records, bank statements. Is this legal? Wilson shrugged. Within the scope of a private investigation. I have a detective agency license. And what have you found? He led me to one of the boards. Look. Anna's last call was from here. He pointed to the map. Margaret's dacha. Officially sold 5 years ago, but in reality she still uses it. She was at my mother-in-law's dacha? Judging by the geolocation, yes. After that, her phone was switched off and never came back on. No card use. Complete silence. Have you checked the dacha? Officially, I can't. Private property. But my people watched. James went there 4 times in the past 2 weeks. Always at night, always alone. Suspicious. More than suspicious. And also, we checked pharmacies. 3 weeks ago, Margaret bought strong sleeping pills. Prescribed supposedly for insomnia. But the dosage she got would put a horse to sleep. You think they drugged her? Or worse. But without evidence, the police won't act. Then what do you propose? I need you to meet with James. Under the pretext of divorce papers or money. Draw him into a conversation about Anna. He might slip up. He won't meet with me. It's over between us. He will, if you hint you're willing to forgive him. Men fall for that. Especially when cornered. I don't want to give him false hope. And you don't have to. Just meet, talk. We'll be nearby, covering you. Wilson showed me the plan. The meeting would be in a public place, a cafe downtown. His people would sit at neighboring tables. The conversation would be recorded, observed. Safe. I hesitated. On one hand, the plan seemed reasonable. On the other, the thought of meeting James filled me with disgust. All right. I'll try. But if he refuses, I'm done. Fair enough. Thank you, Sophia. You're a good person. I went home and dialed James's number. He answered after the 5th ring. Sophia, you? I can't believe my ears. James, we need to meet. There are questions about the documents. Of course, anytime. Where are you? I can come right now. I'm in Boston. If you want to meet, come tomorrow. Cafe Literatura on Newberry Street at 3 o'clock. Boston, you moved? Why so far? That's not your concern. Are you coming or not? Of course I'll come. Sophia, maybe this is a sign. Maybe we should try again? Tomorrow, James. I hung up, nauseated. Even his voice made my skin crawl. How would I sit across from him, look into his eyes, talk? But there was no choice. If Anna was in danger, if there was a chance to help, I had to try. The next day I arrived at the cafe early. I chose a table by the window, with a good view of the room. Wilson's people were already at nearby tables. Ordinary customers, unremarkable. James appeared exactly at 3. Thinner still, his face unhealthy, glancing around nervously. When he saw me, he tried to smile. Sophia, you look wonderful. Boston suits you. Sit down. We don't have much time. He sat across from me, tried to take my hand, but I pulled back. You're still angry. I understand. But, Sophia, I've changed. I've realized my mistakes. My mother regrets everything too. James, I'm not here to listen to your apologies. I have one question. Where is Anna? He stiffened. How should I know? That con artist tricked me and disappeared. Don't lie. I know you've been going to your mother's dacha. At night. Why? Who told you that? Are you spying on me? That doesn't matter. Answer the question. James glanced around nervously, lowered his voice. Sophia, you don't understand. That woman is dangerous. She threatened my mother, blackmailed her. Said she knew something about my father's death. What exactly does she know? Doesn't matter. But my mother was frightened. She has a bad heart, stress could kill her. Where is Anna, James? I don't know. Honestly. She came to see my mother, they talked, then she left. That's all. To the dacha? They met at the dacha. James turned pale. How do you know about the dacha? Doesn't matter. What happened at the dacha? Nothing. She came and left. My mother said she made a deal with her, paid her for silence. How much, I don't know, my mother didn't say. You're lying. You go there at night. Why, if Anna left? James broke into a sweat. Drops appeared on his forehead, his hands trembled. Mother asked me to check the dacha. There were signs of a break-in. She's afraid Anna will come back. Signs of a break-in? Or signs of a struggle? What are you talking about? Sophia, what are you imagining? We didn't do anything to her. So what did you do, James? What happened to Anna? He suddenly stood, knocking over the chair. I don't have to answer your questions. You're not an investigator. If you want to know, ask your friend Wilson. Yes, I know you've been meeting with him. Think I'm an idiot? He turned and headed for the exit. I didn't stop him. The conversation was recorded. Wilson's people heard everything. A minute later, Wilson sat down at my table. He looked grim. He knows more than he's saying. But getting the truth out of him will be difficult. What now? Now we check the dacha. Off the record, of course. At night, when no one's there. That's illegal. My sister is missing. I'm willing to break the law to find her. The real question is, are you? I hesitated. Get involved in something criminal? But if Anna was in danger, if there was a chance to help her, what do you want me to do? Nothing. Just stay available. If we find something, we may need your help. That night I didn't sleep. I waited for Wilson's call. He phoned at 4 in the morning. Sophia, we found something. Not Anna, but come. Urgently. I called a taxi and rushed to the address. Once again the industrial zone, once again the warehouse. But this time there were more people, and everyone looked uneasy. Wilson met me at the entrance. His face was grim. We checked the dacha. Anna's not there. But we found her things. A bag, phone, documents. Hidden in the basement. She left them? Unlikely. We also found traces of blood. Not much, but enough for DNA analysis. Blood? My God, did they kill her? Let's not jump to conclusions. But the situation is serious. I passed the information to the police. Anonymously, of course. Tomorrow they'll search the dacha officially. And James? Margaret? They don't know about our find yet. But when the police come with a warrant, everything will come out. What should I do? Be careful. If they realize you helped in the search, they might try to retaliate. Better leave for a few days. Where? I'll arrange it. I have a country house, it's safe there. I can't just disappear. I have work. Say you're sick. This is about your safety. The next day the news exploded across all the media. During the search of a well-known businesswoman Margaret's dacha, evidence was found pointing to a possible crime. Blood, belongings of the missing woman. Margaret and her son James were taken into custody. I watched the news from Wilson's country house. A beautiful mansion by the sea, security guards, a high fence. A prison, though a golden one. Wilson arrived in the evening. He looked tired but resolute. There's news. The analysis confirmed the blood belongs to Anna. But her body hasn't been found yet. Maybe she's alive? Injured, but alive? Possibly. Investigators are checking hospitals, private clinics. But so far, nothing. And James and his mother? They're giving contradictory statements. James claims he knows nothing. Margaret is silent, citing her weak heart. As always. Yes. But the investigators aren't fools. They see the lies. They'll press until someone breaks. We sat in the living room drinking tea. Outside it was getting dark, rain beginning to fall. Tell me about Anna, I asked. What was she like before all this? Wilson smiled sadly. Brilliant. Talented. She graduated from the financial university with honors. Worked in an investment company. Married for love. It seemed she had her whole life ahead of her. And then? Then her husband started gambling. First small, then bigger. He lost all their savings, got into debt. Anna tried to help, took out loans, sold her car, her jewelry. But it was never enough for him. She never thought of divorce? She thought about it. But he threatened her. Said he would hurt himself if she left. Emotional blackmail. Anna believed him, held on. Until she found out he was seeing another woman. The one he gambled for, trying to win big money. Betrayal. Yes. Anna couldn't take it. Pills, veins. They barely saved her. After that she changed. Became cold, calculating. She said she would never again let a man deceive a woman. And she began her hunt for unfaithful husbands. A hunt? You could call it that. She called it restoring justice. She would find men who betrayed their wives and teach them a lesson. Not for money, but for principle. But with James it turned out differently. Did she get carried away? Wilson shook his head. No. But she found something more. Information about his father's death. Something so serious Margaret was willing to do anything to keep it from surfacing. What exactly? I don't know. Anna didn't have time to tell me. But judging by Margaret's reaction, it could have destroyed her. We fell silent. The rain grew heavier, drumming against the windows. Suddenly Wilson's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, frowned. Unknown number. He put it on speaker. The voice was weak, hoarse, but recognizable. Stephen Wilson? Anna. Wilson jumped up. Anna, you're alive? Where are you? Listen carefully. I don't have much time. I'm in the basement of house number 15 on Maple Street. Locked up. Injured. They'll be back soon. Who are they? James? No. Margaret's people. She hired them. They've kept me here for 3 weeks. They want me to hand over the documents. What documents? Proof of murder. She killed her husband. Poisoned him. I have records, the results of the exhumation. Oh God. We're coming for you. Hold on. No. The police first. They're armed. And Stephen Wilson, if something happens to me, the documents are in my apartment. Hidden behind the painting in the bedroom. The line went dead. Wilson was already dialing the police, shouting into the phone, demanding immediate action. 5 minutes later we were racing in his car behind the police. Maple Street turned out to be in an industrial district. Abandoned houses, darkness, not a soul. House number 15 looked deserted. Broken windows, peeling walls. The police cordoned off the building, began their search. We waited in the car. Every minute felt like an eternity. Finally, an officer appeared and waved. Wilson bolted, and I followed. Anna was indeed in the basement. Alive, but in terrible condition. Emaciated, bruised, with a poorly treated head wound. But alive. The ambulance took her away. Wilson went with her. I stayed to give my statement. I told them everything I knew, holding nothing back. By morning more was known. The people holding Anna were hired thugs. Margaret had paid them to kidnap and detain her. She wanted the documents about her husband's death, but Anna refused to give in. James was released. It turned out he truly didn't know his mother was keeping Anna captive. He thought she had left, as his mother told him. His involvement was limited to checking the dacha at his mother's request. Margaret was arrested. She was charged with kidnapping, unlawful detention, and assault. And when the police found the documents in Anna's apartment, suspicion of her husband's 15-year-old murder was added. I returned to my apartment at dawn, completely exhausted. The events of the past few days felt like a nightmare. My ex-mother-in-law turned out to be a murderer. The woman who had helped me through my divorce had been kidnapped and nearly killed. And I was at the center of it all. I called Jane, told her I'd be late to work. Peter Robinson, upon hearing of the situation, gave me a week off. He said he understood how hard this was and that the school could wait. The next day Wilson called. Anna is in the hospital, in stable condition. She wants to see you. Me? Why? She didn't say. But she insists. Can you come? Of course. The hospital greeted me with the smell of medicine and the quiet of its corridors. Anna lay in a private room. Pale, emaciated, with an IV in her arm. But her eyes were alive, attentive. Thank you for coming, she said weakly. Please, sit down. I sat on a chair by her bed. How do you feel? Alive. That's what matters. Sophia, I have to apologize. For what? For dragging you into this. I didn't think it would go this far. You're not to blame. It's Margaret. Anna shook her head. I provoked her. I found the documents about her husband's death and started blackmailing her. I wanted her to confess, to repent. But she was stronger and more ruthless than I imagined. What exactly did you find? Anna paused, gathering strength. Medical documents. The real ones, not the ones in the official report. Margaret's husband died of thallium poisoning, a rare toxin that mimics the symptoms of a heart attack. The pathologist suspected something was wrong, ran additional tests. But then the documents disappeared, and the doctor suddenly moved abroad. How did you find out? From the doctor himself. He lives in Germany. I tracked him down, persuaded him to tell me the truth. He gave me copies of the documents he had kept. He was afraid Margaret would find him if he spoke up. And you went to her with these documents? Yes. Stupid, I know. But I wanted her to feel what women feel when betrayed by their husbands. The fear of exposure, the loss of everything. What did she say? At first she denied it. Then tried to buy me off. Offered money. But when she realized I wouldn't sell out, she invited me to the dacha under the pretense of negotiations. I went. Idiot. Don't blame yourself. Who else should I blame? I knew she was dangerous. But arrogance got the better of me. I thought I could handle it. She slipped a sedative into my tea. I woke up in that basement. We sat in silence. Outside the hospital window, the city hummed on, life moving forward. Sophia, Anna spoke again. I have a request. Or rather, a proposal. I'm listening. I'm leaving this game. No more revenge, no more exposures. I just want to live. But I have information on other men. The ones who cheat on their wives, steal family money, abuse them. A whole dossier. And what do you want to do with it? Give it to you. If you want. Not for revenge, but to help women. To warn them, to give them proof. Let them decide what to do. I can't. That's not me. Think about it. There are stories that break your heart. A woman whose husband spends the money for their sick child's treatment on alcohol. Another beaten by her husband, too afraid to leave because he threatens to take the kids. A third, like you, who supported a parasite for years without knowing it. Why me? Because you're strong. You managed to break free, to start a new life. And because you're kind. You helped me when you didn't have to. I hesitated. Take on such a responsibility? But if it could help someone avoid the pain I had lived through. All right. I'll think about it. Anna smiled. Thank you. The dossier is with Wilson. If you decide, he'll give it to you. I left the hospital with a heavy heart. The world was more complicated and frightening than I thought. And yet, there were people willing to fight for justice. Even in strange ways. That evening Marina called. Sophia, you won't believe this. James came to me. Begged me to give you a letter. Throw it away. I can't. He stood at my door for 2 hours. He cried. The neighbors were about to call the police. In the end, I took the letter so he'd leave. And what's in it? I don't know, I didn't read it. But he said it was important. Something about his mother and father. I stopped to think. Did James know about the murder? Or did he find out only now? Send me a photo of the letter. 5 minutes later, I was reading James's sprawling handwriting on my phone screen. Sophia, I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. I've caused too much pain. But I have to tell the truth. The whole truth. I didn't know my mother killed my father. I swear. I always believed the heart attack story. He really did have heart problems, took medication. His death aroused no suspicion. But now that the documents have surfaced, I remember the oddities. A week before his death, Father said he was leaving my mother. He'd found another woman and wanted to start a new life. Mother threw a fit, threatened to kill herself. And then suddenly calmed down. Said she accepted his decision. A week later, Father died. Mother wept at the funeral, played the inconsolable widow. And a month later I happened to see her burning some vials in the fireplace. I asked what they were. She said, "Father's old medicine, too painful to look at." Now I understand, it was poison. She poisoned him so she wouldn't lose her status and money. And then for all these years she manipulated me, playing on my sense of duty to my father's memory. Sophia, I'm not asking you to come back. I know I destroyed everything. But I want you to know, I was a victim too. A puppet in my mother's hands. She raised me this way. Selfish, weak, dependent. I'm in therapy now. Trying to figure out how to live on. Without my mother, without you, without illusions. It hurts, but it's necessary. I'll transfer the last installment early. It's the least I can do. And one more thing. Be happy. You deserve real love, not the surrogate I offered. Forgive me, if you can. Not me, but the boy who once sincerely loved a girl named Sophia. He died many years ago, smothered by a mother's love. James. I set the phone aside. I didn't know what to feel. Pity? Anger? Relief? All at once. Marina called back. Did you read it? Yes. And what do you think? I don't know. He's right about one thing, Margaret warped his life. But that's not an excuse. He's an adult, he could have chosen differently. Agreed. But you know, maybe it's for the best. Now he has a chance to start over. Without a toxic mother. If he can. Wounds like that don't heal quickly. You did. I don't know if I did. I'm just learning to live on. The next few days passed in a strange calm. I went back to work, to my students. The children, as always, recharged me. Their spontaneity, their thirst for knowledge, their sincerity, all of it reminded me why I chose this profession. Peter Robinson called me into his office. Sophia, I've heard about your adventures. Are you all right? Yes, thank you. It's all behind me. Good. I have a proposal. Next month there's an international conference on innovative methods of language teaching. In Helsinki. I'd like you to represent our school. Me? But I've only been working here a short time. All the more reason, you have a fresh perspective and excellent results. Your students are showing progress, your colleagues praise you. I think you'll do wonderfully. I agreed. A trip abroad, new contacts, professional growth, exactly what I needed to finally leave the past behind. In the evening Wilson called. Sophia, there's news. Margaret made a confession. Confessed to murder? Not exactly. She says it was an accident. She only wanted to sedate her husband so he wouldn't leave, to talk to him. But she mixed up the dose. Do you believe her? No. Thallium isn't a sedative. You don't confuse it. But her lawyer will push that version. Manslaughter means a lighter sentence. And Anna? She's being discharged tomorrow. She's going to relatives in Miami. Says she needs sea and sun to recover. She's right. By the way, she left that dossier for you. If you're interested, I can pass it on. I hesitated. Take on other people's secrets, other people's pain? Let's meet. I'll see what's in it. The next day Wilson handed me an ordinary folder. Inside, dozens of files. Names, photos, evidence. Cheating husbands, tyrant husbands, parasite husbands. I flipped through the pages and recognized my own story in every other one. Women who for years endured, believed, hoped, and didn't know the truth. What do I do with this? I asked Wilson. Anna suggested warning the women. Anonymously. A letter, a call, a message. With proof. Then let them decide. That's interference in other people's lives. Or arrest you from years of deceit. It's your call. I took the folder home. Sat over it for a long time, thinking. Then I opened the first file. A 35-year-old woman, 2 children. The husband says he works late. In reality, he's seeing a student mistress and renting her an apartment with the family's money. I found the woman on social media. Happy family photos, smiles, a semblance of well-being. Just like mine once were. I wrote a private message, "Hello. You don't know me, but I have to tell you something." And I attached a photo of her husband with the mistress. The reply came an hour later, "Thank you." I suspected, but I was afraid to know the truth. Now I know what to do. And so it went, file after file. Some women thanked me. Others didn't believe, accused me of lying. Still others asked for advice, for help. I realized I couldn't do this alone. A system was needed, support. I spoke with Jane, and she introduced me to a psychologist who worked with victims of domestic abuse. Together we created a support group. Anonymous, online. Women shared their stories, supported each other, gave advice. Volunteer lawyers offered consultations on divorce. Psychologists helped them cope with trauma. The group grew. First 10 people, then 50, then hundreds. Women from different cities, of different ages, but with similar stories. I coordinated, moderated, helped. It became my second job, my calling, to use my experience to help others. One day a new message appeared in the group, "My name is Elena. I'm 58. For 30 years I endured my husband's abuse. He drank, beat me, cheated. I was afraid to leave, where could I go at my age? But after reading your stories, I realized it's never too late to start over. Yesterday I filed for divorce. It's frightening, but I am free. Thank you." I read and cried, tears of joy for someone else's, but so familiar, victory. 6 months passed. My life settled into a calm rhythm. Work at school, the support group, trips to conferences. I even started seeing a colleague from Finland. We'd met at that conference in Helsinki. Nothing serious, just pleasant company. And then came a letter from James. A real letter, on paper, sent by post. "Sophia, I'm writing to you for the last time. I want to let you know that I've fulfilled all my financial obligations. The last installment has been transferred. Mother got 12 years for killing my father. I sold all property to pay for lawyers, but it didn't help. She'll be in prison until she's 70. She's unlikely to live that long. I don't visit her. I can't look into the eyes of the woman who killed my father and twisted my life. My therapist says that's normal. It takes time to forgive. If I ever can. I'm leaving. I found work with a small construction company in Denver. Simple work, honest work. I'll be starting from scratch, without lies and manipulation. I know you created a support group for women. Jane told me, we met by chance. I'm proud of you. Out of our broken marriage grew something good, something that helps people. Forgive me for everything. And thank you for 10 years. Yes, there was lies and pain. But there were happy moments too. I will remember only those. Goodbye, James." I folded the letter, put it in my desk drawer. I didn't throw it away, no. It was part of my story, however painful. The next day Anna called. Her voice was stronger now, lively. "Sophia, how are you?" "I'm fine." "And you?" "How's Miami?" "Wonderful. The sea eels." "I wanted to thank you. Stephen Wilson told me about your group. It's what I wanted to do but couldn't. You found the right path. You gave me the idea. No. I wanted revenge. You give help. That's a fundamental difference." We talked a bit longer. Anna told me she'd met a man. A doctor at the local hospital. For now they were just friends, but who knew? "Aren't you afraid? After everything?" "I'm afraid. But life without risk isn't life. The important thing is, now I know what to look for. Red flags, as you say in the group. We said goodbye, promising to stay in touch. A strange friendship, born of deceit and pain. But that's life, flowers grow from manure. That evening I sat on the balcony of my Boston apartment. Summer twilight wrapped the city in a soft glow. Down below, couples strolled, friends laughed together. A year ago at this time I sat in my old apartment wondering how to pay the utility bills. James had once again spent all the money on a non-existent business. Margaret lectured me about being a bad wife. And now I was here. In a new city, with a new job, new friends. Free, independent, needed by people. My phone pinged. A message in the support group. A new member. Hello. I'm 42. My husband drinks, lies that he's sober. My daughter is 15. I'm ashamed to have her bring friends home. I don't know what to do. Help me. I began typing a reply. Hello. You've already taken the first step. You've reached out for help. That's already a victory. Let's work through this together. And as I typed, I understood the most important thing. My story hadn't ended with divorcing James. It had only just begun. The story of the new Sophia, who wasn't a victim but a fighter. Who turned her pain into strength and her experience into help for others. Somewhere in Denver, James was starting from scratch. In a Miami hospital, Anna was learning to trust again. In a prison cell, Margaret was paying for murder. And I was here, in Boston, building a new life. Not the one I had dreamed of 10 years ago. Another one. Perhaps harder, but certainly more honest. Tomorrow would bring a new day. New students, new stories in the group, new challenges. And I was ready to face them. Because I knew the main secret, any hell can be escaped. You just have to take the first step. And then the second. And keep walking until you reach the light. I finished typing the message, sent it. A minute later came the reply, thank you. It already feels better just to be heard. I smiled. Yes, it was only beginning. And that was wonderful. But the story didn't end there. A week after James's letter, something happened that turned everything upside down. The doorbell rang one morning. I opened it, expecting the mailman or a neighbor. But on the threshold stood an unfamiliar woman of about 60. Gray hair neatly styled, a formal suit, a leather folder in her hands. Sophia. My name is Vera. I'm a lawyer. And, if you'll allow me to say, your mother-in-law. I froze. What mother-in-law? I'm sorry, I don't understand. I had only one mother-in-law, Margaret, and she's in prison now. The woman gave a sad smile. Margaret was indeed your mother-in-law. But she wasn't James's mother. I am. His real mother. The world tilted. I grabbed the doorframe to keep from falling. This must be some mistake. James always said Margaret was his mother. Because he thought so himself. Margaret raised him from infancy. And me? I gave him up. It's a long and sad story. May I come in? I stepped aside automatically, letting her into the apartment. We went to the kitchen. I put the kettle on, trying to gather my thoughts. Vera sat at the table, opened the folder, and pulled out yellow documents. This is James's birth certificate. The real one. See, in the mother field, Vera Romanova, my maiden name. And here is the adoption paper. Margaret officially adopted him when he was 6 months old. But why? How? Vera sighed deeply. I was 19. Studying at university, in love with a professor. Paul, James's father. He was married. To Margaret. I felt a chill inside. You were the mistress? Not exactly. Paul said he was divorcing. That he didn't love his wife, that he had married for convenience. I believed him. Young, foolish, in love. When I found out I was pregnant, he panicked. Said the scandal would ruin his career. begged me to have an abortion. But you didn't. I couldn't. I went to relatives in the village, gave birth there. Wanted to raise my son myself, but Paul found me. He came with Margaret. She knew about the child. And she offered a deal. What deal? They would take the boy, raise him as their own. In return, they'd pay for my education abroad, give me money for a new life. If I refused, Paul would use his connections to have me expelled from university, to strip me of any future. And you agreed? Vera began to cry, quietly, soundlessly. What else could I do? 19, no support, a child in my arms. My parents disowned me when they learned of the out-of-wedlock pregnancy. I was trapped. You gave up your son. Yes. The greatest mistake of my life. I thought it was temporary. I'd get an education, get on my feet, take him back. But Margaret tricked me. She formalized the adoption, changed the documents. By law, I no longer had any rights to the child. And Paul? He knew he was raising his biological son. Of course. But to everyone else, James was Margaret's child. A late, long-awaited baby. No one doubted it. Why didn't you fight? Try to get him back? I tried. But they had money, connections, power. And I was nobody. A student, later a young lawyer without experience. Every attempt ended in threats. Margaret made it clear, if I came near James, she would destroy me. You watched him? From afar. I knew where he studied, what he liked. I rejoiced at his successes, grieved at his failures. When he married you, I was happy. I thought, finally, in his life there was someone who would truly love him. I sat there, stunned. James's whole life had been a lie. The woman he thought was his mother was his stepmother. The father he idolized had betrayed his real mother. But why would Margaret want someone else's child? She couldn't have children. And Paul needed an heir. Divorce meant loss of status, of money. My son solved all their problems. Formerly a child from the marriage, no questions asked. And she killed Paul. Yes, when he wanted to leave her for another woman. Not me, some young secretary. Margaret couldn't allow it. James was already grown, he would have learned the truth. Reputation, money, it all would have collapsed. Why did you come to me? Why now? Vera wiped her tears. I followed the case. I know Margaret is in prison. James has left. And I thought, maybe you can help. You have his contacts? I want to tell him the truth. He deserves to know. It will destroy him completely. He's only just beginning to recover from everything. Or it will free him. His whole life he felt something was wrong. Margaret loved him, but like a possession, a thing. And me? I loved him as a mother does. From afar, but sincerely. I stood, pacing the kitchen. My mind couldn't take it all in. Another secret, another lie. How many more were there in this story? I have an address in Denver, where he went. But I'm not sure I should interfere. I'm not asking you to interfere. Just give him this. Vera pulled out an envelope. Here are documents, photos, my letter. Let him read when he's ready. And decide for himself if he wants to meet me. If he doesn't, I'll accept it. I've waited 40 years. I can wait longer, if I must. She stood, gathered the documents back into the folder. Thank you for listening. I know it's a shock. But I had to try. Wait. I took the envelope. I'll give it to him. I can't promise when or how. But I'll give it to him. Vera nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you. That's more than I dared hope for. She left, leaving me with the envelope and 1,000 questions. What should I do? Send it to James right away? Wait? What if the truth shattered him completely? I called Wilson. Strangely, in these months we had become friends. He listened to my rambling story and whistled softly. That's a twist. Poor James. His whole life was theater. What should I do with the letter? What does your instinct say? That truth is better than lies. Even painful truth. Then send it. He's an adult. He'll handle it. Or he won't, but that will be his choice. I sent the letter by express mail that same day. And I waited. For what? I didn't know. A call? Curses? Gratitude? The reply came 2 weeks later. A short message on my phone. Thank you. I'm coming to Boston. I'll meet her. And you, if you'll allow it. There's something I want to say. I answered yes. Why not? The circle had to close. We met in the same cafe where, a year ago, James had tried to find out where Anna was. He had changed. Thinner still, but his gaze was clearer, steadier. You look good, he said instead of hello. You too. How's Denver? Cold. But honest. I work with my hands, get so tired there's no strength left for reflection. You met Vera? Yesterday. We talked for 3 hours. She showed me photos, documents. Told me everything. And James paused, searching for words. Strange, but I felt relief. My whole life I sensed something was wrong. Margaret, loved me, but in the wrong way. Possessively. And now it turns out I was just her living proof of victory over a rival. Vera loved you for real. Yes. I felt it. She remembers everything. My first day of school, even though she only saw it from afar. My graduation, my wedding. She was there, Sophia. Standing in the crowd outside City Hall. I remembered that day. A sunny May, a white dress, the feeling of happiness. And somewhere in the crowd stood a woman who had given up her son and was watching the most important day of his life. What now? I asked. I don't know. We agreed to keep in touch. Maybe, in time, we'll grow closer. Or maybe not. But at least now there are no lies. That matters. Yes. James, I want to apologize. Once again. For everything. James, enough. We've already talked about it all. No, let me say it. I understood why I was the way I was. Margaret raised me as her copy. Selfish, calculating, incapable of real feeling. But that's not an excuse. I still chose my actions. It doesn't matter now. It matters. Because I want to change. Truly. Not for you, don't hope for that. I know I've lost you forever. For myself. So I can look in the mirror without disgust. I nodded. I didn't know what to say. Too much had happened, the wounds too deep. You know, James went on, Vera told me she watched you too. She said you were the best thing that ever happened to me. And she's right. Don't idealize the past. I'm not. I'm just acknowledging the facts. You loved the real me. The one that didn't exist. The one I pretended to be. And I couldn't appreciate it. We sat in silence. Outside, rain was falling, typical Boston rain. Will you stay in Denver? I asked, to change the subject. For now, yes. I have work, the pay is decent. I rent a room, live simply. For the first time in my life, I'm earning honestly. And what about the car? The garage? I sold them. Gave the money to your women's support fund. Anonymously. Let it serve a good purpose. I was surprised. I hadn't expected such a gesture. Thank you. That means a lot. It's the least I could do. Considering how many women I deceived. Not just you. There were others. Before you, during our marriage. I know. Anna told me. James grimaced. That woman, she opened my eyes to myself. Brutally, but effectively. She's alive, if you're curious. Recovered, living in Miami. I'm glad for her. Truly. Let her be happy. We finished our coffee. James stood up. I have to go. My flight's in 3 hours. Good luck, James. I truly wish you well. He nodded, took a few steps toward the exit, then turned back. Sophia, can I ask you a personal question? Are you happy? I hesitated. Was I happy? A year ago I had lost everything I thought mattered. A family, a home, my illusions. But I had found myself. My real self. Yes. I'm happy. Not the way I once dreamed. But truly. James smiled. For the first time during our meeting, sincerely. I'm glad. Truly glad. Be happy, Sophia. For both of us. He left. I stayed sitting, looking out the window. The rain was getting heavier, passers-by rushing beneath umbrellas. Strange how life sets everything in its place. James, raised in wealth and lies, now lives in a room in Denver and is honest with himself for the first time. Margaret, who spent her life controlling others, sits in prison. Vera, who lost her son, has been given the chance to find him again. And me? I found myself. Not the Sophia who endured and forgave. A new one. Strong. That evening Anna called. We had started speaking once a month, sharing news. Hello, fighter. How are you? Strange, I said, and told her about Vera, about meeting James. Anna whistled. That's a plot twist. Worse than a Mexican soap opera. Life is worse than any soap opera. True. By the way, I have news. I'm getting married. What? So soon? 9 months isn't soon. And I'm 35. It's time. Are you sure? After everything? No. But I'm ready to take the risk. He's good. Real. Checked him by every parameter. She laughed. I'm happy for you. Truly. Thank you. And you know what? I'm inviting you to the wedding. You'll be my bridesmaid. Anna, we barely know each other. But we've been through fire and water. That's stronger than years of friendship. Come. It'll be fun. I agreed. Why not? Life's too short to turn down unexpected invitations. Anna's wedding was a month later. I flew to Miami the day before the ceremony. Anna met me at the airport. Tanned, radiant, in a light summer dress. Nothing like the exhausted woman in a hospital bed. I can't believe you came, she said, hugging me. Neither can I. But a promise is a promise. She drove me to a hotel by the ocean. A room with a view of the sunset, a basket of fruit, a bottle of wine. This is too much, I said. This is the minimum for my bridesmaid. Tonight's the bachelorette party. Nothing vulgar, I promise. Just dinner in a good restaurant. And the groom? I don't even know his name. Andrew. A cardiac surgeon. 40 years old, divorced, no kids. Calm, reliable, with a wonderful sense of humor. How did you meet? I broke my leg skiing. He operated. Then he visited, brought books. At first I thought, professional courtesy. But he kept coming after I was discharged. And you checked him? Anna laughed. Of course. Through every database. Clean as glass. He even pays his taxes on time. That evening we sat in a restaurant on the shore. Besides us there were 3 of Anna's other friends. Locals she had met in Miami. We laughed, drank wine, shared stories. One of the friends, Natalie, asked how Anna and I had met. We exchanged a glance. It's complicated, Anna said evasively. Sophia helped me in a difficult situation. And vice versa, I added. Natalie wanted to ask more, but Anna changed the subject. And rightly so. Some stories aren't for a festive table. The next day was the wedding. Small, about 30 people. A ceremony on the beach, with the sound of waves. Anna in a simple white dress, barefoot in the sand. Andrew truly was a pleasant man. He looked at Anna with such tenderness that it was clear this was real. When they exchanged vows, I remembered my own wedding. It had been beautiful too, with promises of eternal love. Only there it was lies, and here it was truth. The difference was palpable. After the ceremony, Andrew came up to me. Thank you for coming. It means a lot to Anna. To me as well. She's told me about you. Not details, but the essence. You're both strong women. We just survived. That is strength. In the evening, when the guests had left, Anna and I sat on the hotel terrace. The newlyweds had gone, and I stayed until morning. My flight was in the afternoon. Strange, Anna said, a year ago I was destroying other people's marriages, and now I'm married myself. Life is unpredictable. Do you think I can do it? Be a normal wife? After everything? What is a normal wife? The one who endures and stays silent? You'll be yourself. If Andrew loves you, that's enough. Wise words. Learned from your own experience? I did. At a high cost, but I learned. We sat in silence, listening to the ocean. Somewhere in the distance music played, late-night revelers laughed. You know, Anna said, I thought about Margaret. She was young once too, in love. Married, dreamed of children. And then she found out she couldn't have them, that her husband was cheating. That's no excuse for murder. No. But it explains why she became what she was. Pain changes people. It makes some stronger, some broken. And some into monsters. Yes. The line is thin. I almost crossed it myself. If it weren't for you, for Stephen, I could have become the same. But I didn't. I was lucky. I stopped in time. In the morning, Anna took me to the airport. As we said goodbye, she told me that she and Andrew were planning to move to New York. He had received a job offer at a major clinic. We'll be closer to Boston. We'll be able to see each other more often. I'd like that. And Anna, thank you. For everything. You saved my life. Not just physically. Spiritually. We saved each other. On the plane, I thought about the strange twists of fate. A year ago, I was an unhappy wife, used by my husband and mother-in-law. Now I had a new life, a job, friends. And even a strange friendship with the woman who had been my husband's mistress. In Boston, news was waiting for me. Peter Robinson offered me a promotion. Deputy Director for International Relations. More responsibility, but also a higher salary. You can handle it, he said confidently. This past year you've shown yourself at your best. I agreed. A new position, new challenges. Exactly what I needed for growth. There were changes in the support group as well. We had grown to over 1,000 people. I had to appoint several moderators, divide by regions. Psychologist volunteers appeared, lawyers, even doctors. One story especially stayed with me. A woman from a small town wrote that her husband was drinking away the money they had saved for their daughter's surgery. The girl needed urgent heart surgery. The cost was enormous. They had been saving for 3 years. The group reacted instantly. Within a week, the needed amount was raised. The girl was operated on in Boston. Successfully. The mother sent a photo. A girl with huge eyes and a happy smile. You did this, the woman wrote. You saved not only my daughter. You saved me too. I now believe there is goodness, that one can start over. Moments like that gave me strength to go on. Yes, the work in the group took time, energy, sometimes nerves. But it gave meaning. The feeling that my experience, my pain, had not been in vain. 3 months after Anna's wedding, an unexpected letter arrived. From Vera, James's real mother. Sophia, forgive me for bothering you. I wanted to thank you. James has started communicating with me. For now only correspondence, but it's already a lot. He tells me about work, about Denver. Sends photos. And more. He mentioned that he is seeing a psychologist. Working on himself, his traumas. It gives hope that he can heal. Become the man he could have been, if not for the lies he grew up in. Thank you for being the bridge between us. Without you, I would never have dared. If you're ever in New York, I'd be glad to meet. Just to talk without the heavy past. Sincerely, Vera. I replied that I was glad to help. And that I would certainly meet if I came to New York. Strangely, I felt no anger toward this woman. Yes, she had given up her son. But she had been a victim of circumstance, like so many of us. Young, defenseless, cornered. Who knows what I would have done in her place? Autumn in Boston was rainy. I sat in my office at school, preparing the program for the next semester. There was a knock at the door. A young woman of about 25 came in. Tall, slender, with a mane of red hair. Sophia. My name is Lisa. I'm from your support group. I was surprised. Group members rarely sought personal meetings. All communication was online. Please sit down. How can I help? Lisa sat, nervously twisting the strap of her bag. I don't know where to start. It's complicated. Start at the beginning. We have time. She took a deep breath. I was seeing a man. Or rather, I thought I was. He's married, but he swore he was divorcing. Classic, right? Unfortunately, yes. I believed him. He seemed so sincere, so in love. He rented us an apartment, gave me gifts, promised a future. And then I found out the truth. What truth? He's not just married. He has 3 children. And his wife is pregnant with a 4th. And he had no intention of divorcing. He just wanted fun on the side. I'm sorry. That's painful. Lisa nodded, tears shining in her eyes. But that's not all. Or rather, not only that. I found out who his wife is. I read her story in the group. She wrote about a husband who cheats, but she didn't know with whom. She asked for advice. I tensed. An ethically difficult situation. And what do you want? To tell her? She has the right to know. But I'm afraid. What if she loses the baby from the stress? Or something else? Then it will be my fault. It's not your fault. He deceived you both. But I should have checked. Found out if he was really divorcing. You teach in the group to notice red flags. Lisa burst into tears. I handed her tissues, waited until she calmed down. What's this woman's name? Irina. She's 37. Lives in New York. I have proof. Messages, photos. But I don't know if it's right to give them to her. I thought. On the one hand, Irina had the right to know the truth. On the other, she was pregnant, stress was dangerous. What if you tell her after the birth? When she has recovered? 4 more months to keep silent? To know and not speak? And are you sure she wants to know? Some women prefer to live in illusions. In the group she asked for help. That means she's ready for the truth. I made a decision. Let's do this. I'll contact Irina. Carefully find out if she's ready for such information. If she is, I'll arrange a meeting. But not now. In a couple of weeks, so she can prepare. Lisa nodded. Thank you. I couldn't have managed alone. After she left, I sat for a long time, thinking. Then I wrote Irina a private message. Suggested meeting to discuss her situation. Without mentioning Lisa. Irina replied immediately, yes, I really want to meet. Tomorrow? We met in a cafe in the center of New York. Irina turned out to be a pleasant-looking woman with tired eyes. For children, and she looked older than her years. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I'm desperate. I know my husband is cheating, but I can't prove it. He denies everything, says I'm going crazy because of the pregnancy. Why do you think he's cheating? He comes home late, smells of another woman's perfume, hides his phone. Money disappears. He says, on business, but I checked, there is no business. A familiar story. Just like mine once. What do you want? A divorce? Irina shook her head. I have 3 children and a 4th on the way. Where would I go? I don't have a job, only a high school diploma. My parents live in a village, barely making ends meet. Then why do you need proof? To know the truth. So I don't go crazy. Maybe if he realizes I know, he'll come to his senses. I had doubts, but kept silent. Irina, and if the truth turns out worse than you think? Are you ready for that? She was silent for a long time, stroking her belly. I don't know. But not knowing kills more. There is someone who can tell you the truth. But it will be painful. The mistress? Yes. Former. She didn't know he was married. She's a victim too. I want to meet her. I arranged the meeting for a week later. In a neutral place, with a psychologist from our group. Just in case. The meeting was difficult. Lisa told everything. Showed the messages, the photos. Irina listened in silence, only growing paler. When Lisa finished, Irina stood up. Thank you. Now I know. What will you do? I asked. Nothing for now. I'll give birth first. And then? Then I'll decide. But now it will be my choice, based on truth. She left, leaving us with Lisa and the psychologist. I ruined everything, Lisa sobbed. No. You gave her the right to choose. That matters. A month later, Irina gave birth. A boy, healthy. She wrote in the group that for now she was staying with her husband. But now differently. She opened a separate account, started saving money. Planned to study online. When the youngest turned 3, she would leave. A 5-year plan. Not everyone supported her decision. Some wrote she should leave immediately. But I understood. She had 4 children. She had to prepare, get on her feet. Otherwise, she would end up in an even worse situation. Winter came suddenly. I woke up in the morning, and outside everything was white. The first snow. Beautiful and sad at the same time. At work, pre-New Year bustle. Concerts, holiday shows, presents. I threw myself into organization. No time to think about my personal life. A week before New Year's, the Finn I had been seeing called. Miko. Sophia, I'm in Boston. Conference. Can we meet? We hadn't seen each other for 3 months. He was busy, I was too. We rarely wrote. Of course. When? Tonight? Dinner? I agreed. Why not? New Year was coming, the mood was festive. Miko chose a restaurant overlooking the harbor. Beautiful, romantic. He looked good. Tanned after a vacation in Asia. He talked about the trip, work, plans. I listened, nodded, but my thoughts were far away. I realized I felt nothing. A pleasant man, an interesting conversationalist, but nothing more. Sophia, he suddenly grew serious. I need to say something. I was offered a job in Australia. To head a school in Sydney. Congratulations. That's a great opportunity. I want you to come with me. I nearly choked on my wine. What? I know we haven't been seeing each other long, but I feel there's something between us. We're a good match. Both in education, no kids, free. Miko, this is too sudden. Think about it. You have time. I leave in a month. I didn't refuse outright. I said I would think about it. But I knew the answer. No. Not because Australia was far away. Not because of my job in Boston. But because I didn't love him. And I didn't want to build another relationship on sand. At home I wrote in the group, "Girls, I've been given a proposal. To move to Australia with a man I don't love. What do you think?" Replies poured in immediately. Most wrote I should agree. A chance, a new life, a wealthy man. But one woman wrote, "Sophia, you taught us not to settle for less. Not to endure, not to adapt. Why do you want to step on the same rake yourself?" She was right. I had taught others to be honest with themselves, and I was ready to compromise. The next day I wrote to Miko. Refused. He was upset, but understood. We were adults. For New Year's I went to my parents. For the first time in 2 years. They greeted me warmly, but cautiously. They knew about the divorce, they worried. Mother kept asking if I regretted it. Maybe I should have endured, kept the family together. Mom, what family? Where the husband lies and the mother-in-law humiliates. But now you're alone. At your age it's hard to find a man. I'm 35, not 70. And better alone than with just anyone. Father was silent, but I saw he was on my side. After dinner, when Mother went to bed, he said quietly, "You did the right thing by leaving. I saw how you suffered. It's just your mother was raised differently. To endure and keep silent. And you? Are you happy with Mom?" He thought for a moment. In our own way, yes. We've worn each other down over 40 years. But if I had to start over, I'd choose differently. It was sad and honest at the same time. On New Year's Eve, the three of us sat together, watching TV. Mother made Olivier salad, Father opened champagne. Like in childhood, only now I was grown. At midnight I made a wish. Not a specific one, just that the next year would be better. For all of us. January 1st brought a message from James. Happy New Year. May it bring you happiness. Real happiness. I replied the same. No resentment, no emotion. Just the politeness of former spouses. From Anna came a photograph. She and Andrew in front of a Christmas tree. The caption, "Our first New Year together." Of many. From Vera, a letter. Long, warm. About how grateful she was for the chance to speak with her son. How she dreamed of one day hugging grandchildren if they came to be. Even Margaret sent word. Through her lawyer. A short note, "Forgive me, if you can. And Happy New Year." I didn't answer. Some things cannot be forgiven. Murder, a lifetime of lies, James's stolen childhood. Let her sit and think about what she had done. After the holidays, life settled back into its rhythm. School, the support group, painting classes. I even finished my first painting. Crooked, naive, but mine. In February, something unexpected happened. Peter Robinson called me in and told me he was retiring. He offered me the position of school principal. I'm not ready. Too little experience. You have excellent organizational skills. The staff respects you. The results speak for themselves. I'm sure you can handle it. It was frightening and exhilarating. A school principal at 35. A huge responsibility. I called Marina for advice. Say yes, without hesitation. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But what if I can't manage? You will. You got out of a toxic marriage, started a new life, built a support group. Running a school is nothing compared to that. She was right. I agreed. The handover took a month. Peter trained me in all the details. Finances, staffing, dealing with parents and officials. My head spun, but I managed. The first parent meeting as principal. My knees were shaking. But once I began to speak, the fear disappeared. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I wanted for the school, for the children. The parents received me well. Young, energetic, with new ideas. Only one father tried to pressure me, saying what could I possibly understand at my age. I calmly replied that I understood the most important thing: children should learn with joy, not under coercion. He wanted to argue, but his wife stopped him. Later she came up to me, apologized, and said she was glad to have a new principal. The previous one had been good, but old school. Spring came early. By March it was warm, the snow had melted. Boston was blooming, as was my life. In the support group came a breakthrough. One of the members, a successful lawyer, suggested creating a foundation. Official, registered, with a bank account and the ability to accept donations. This would allow us to help not only with advice, but with money. Pay for lawyers, psychologists, temporary housing for those leaving abusive husbands. The idea caught fire. We began preparing documents, looking for a space. There was a lot of work, but the enthusiasm was overwhelming. And then came the letter that changed everything. It arrived at the school's email. Official, from the French Ministry of Education. An invitation to an internship in Paris. 3 months of studying innovative teaching methods. All expenses paid. I read it 3 times. I couldn't believe it. Paris. The dream of a lifetime. I showed the letter to my deputy. She gasped. Sophia, this is an incredible opportunity. Of course you must go. But the school? I just became principal. 3 months is nothing. I'll cover. And you'll come back with new knowledge, new contacts. For the school, this is a breakthrough. That evening I shared it with the group. The reaction was explosive. Everyone congratulated me, rejoiced for me. Only one woman wrote privately, Sophia, aren't you afraid? To go alone, to a foreign country? I'm afraid. But fear is no reason to refuse a dream. Preparation took a month. Visa, documents, temporary housing in Paris. The school gave me a warm send-off. The students made a poster, waiting for you with new knowledge. At the airport I unexpectedly met Jane. She had come to see me off. I couldn't not come. You changed my life with your example. You showed me it's possible to start over. Now it's your turn to fly to your dream. We hugged. Over this year she had become a true friend. On the plane I looked out the window and thought of the path I had traveled. 2 years ago I stood on the roadside with a thrown-out bag, humiliated and broken. And now I was flying to Paris, a school principal, founder of a support group. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I opened it, read, Sophia, this is James. I heard from Jane about your trip. I wanted to wish you luck. And to thank you. For everything. For the 10 years that weren't only bad. For the lesson you taught me. For the chance to change. Be happy. You deserve it. P.S. I'm getting married. To a colleague. A simple, honest woman. No lies, no games. You'd approve. I smiled. James was getting married. To a simple woman. Maybe now he would be truly happy. I replied briefly, congratulations. Be honest with each other. Paris greeted me with rain. But even in the rain it was beautiful. Narrow streets, cafes on the corners, the smell of fresh croissants. The apartment turned out to be a small studio on the 5th floor without an elevator. A view over the rooftops, a skylight. Perfect. The first week of the internship, my head was spinning. Lectures, seminars, practice in schools. The French education system was so different. Freer, more creative. I met colleagues from different countries. Greta from Germany, Marco from Italy, Yuki from Japan. In the evenings we sat in cafes, discussed what we'd seen, shared experiences. Marco tried to flirt. Handsome, charming, a true Italian. But I gently made it clear, not interested. He didn't mind, we stayed friends. In the second week came a meeting that changed much. I was sitting in the Luxembourg Gardens, reading a book. A man approached, asked in French if the seat beside me was free. I nodded without lifting my eyes. "Are you Russian?" He suddenly asked in Russian. I looked up in surprise. In front of me stood a man about 40. Unremarkable, in a simple sweater and jeans. But his eyes. Intelligent, attentive, with sparks of laughter. "Yes." "And you?" "Me too." "Anton." He held out his hand. "Sophia." We started talking. It turned out he was an architect, had been living in Paris for 5 years. Divorced, moved here to start a new life. A familiar story, I smiled. "Yours too?" "You could say that." I gave a brief version. No details, just the essence. A toxic marriage, divorce, a new life in Boston. Anton listened attentively, without interrupting. Then he said, "You know, I admire women like you, who find the strength to leave and start over. My ex-wife left me too. And she was right too." "Why?" "I was a workaholic. I lived for projects, deadlines, my career. Home was just where I slept." She endured 10 years, then said, "Enough." She left for someone else. Someone who saw her as a woman, not furniture. Do you resent her? No. I'm grateful. She opened my eyes. Now I'm different. I've learned to live, not just work. We met every day in that garden. Casually, as if by chance. Though we both knew it wasn't chance. Anton showed me Paris. Not the tourist Paris, the real one. Small museums, hidden courtyards, cafes where locals had breakfast. In the third week he invited me to dinner. I agreed. The restaurant turned out to be tiny, 10 tables at most. The owner was the chef, his wife the waitress. Simple food, but divine. After dinner we walked along the Seine. Paris, Anton said, I hadn't planned on falling in love. At all. I decided I'd be alone. Peacefully, no drama. And what changed? You appeared. With your book in the garden, focused, serious. And I realized, to hell with all my plans. Anton, we've known each other 3 weeks. So what? My grandmother married my grandfather a month after they met. They spent 50 years together. Those were different times. The feelings are the same. I stayed silent. My heart was racing wildly. It was too fast, too unexpected. But somehow, it felt right. I'm not ready for a relationship. Not after everything. I'm not rushing you. I just want you to know, I'm here. And I can wait. The rest of the internship flew by like a single day. Classes, meetings with Anton, walks through Paris. I felt like a student again, in love and free. A week before my departure, Anton made me an offer. Not marriage. Not yet. Stay. Just another month. I have a big project. I could bring you on as a consultant for educational spaces. Officially, with a contract. That would be running away. From reality, from obligations. Or a chance to see what this is between us. No rush, no pressure. I called the school. My deputy said she was managing fine. If needed, she could cover for another month. In the group I wrote that I was staying longer. For professional growth. I didn't mention Anton. Too soon. A month in Paris with Anton was a fairy tale. We worked on his new type school project, where space itself encourages learning. I consulted, he designed. In the evenings we cooked dinner at his place. A simple apartment in an old building. Books, drawings, a cozy kind of clutter. One night I stayed over. Not planned, we had talked past midnight, the last metro was gone. Anton made up a bed for me in the living room. That night I woke from a nightmare. James, Margaret, a burning garage. I went to the kitchen for water. Anton was at the table, working. Can't sleep? Had a nightmare. Why are you up? Habit. I think better at night. We sat in the kitchen, drinking tea, talking until dawn. About the past, about fears, about hopes. I'm afraid of repeating the mistake, I admitted. Trusting again, and getting burned again. And I'm afraid of missing my chance. Because of fear. That's wise. No. Just that I've already burned myself. Lost my wife to my work. I don't want to lose you to fear. In the morning I went back to my place. I needed to think, to make sense of it. In 2 days my flight back to Boston. Anton drove me to the airport. I'll wait, he said. How long? And if I don't come back? You will. Maybe not right away. But you will. How can you be so sure? Because you left a piece of your heart here. I can feel it. He was right. But I wasn't ready to admit it yet. Boston welcomed me back like a hero. The school, the group, everyone wanted to hear about Paris, about the internship. I told them, showed photos. But not the most important part. Not Anton. Only Jane found out. I confided in her, and she smiled. So what's the problem? He's free, you're free. You like each other. It's too fast. We've known each other 2 months. And how long did you date James before marrying him? A year? And did that help you know him any better? She was right. Time isn't a guarantee. Maybe he idealizes me. Loves the image, not the real woman. Or maybe he sees the real you. The one you're only now discovering yourself. That evening came a message from Anton. A photo sketch. The school space we had discussed. And the caption, our project is waiting to come alive. Our. That word caught me. I replied, beautiful. Good luck with the realization. Not the same without you. You're the soul of the project. Don't exaggerate. Don't downplay it. That's how we wrote to each other every day. He sent sketches, I sent comments. Professional, but behind every word there was something more. A month later he wrote, got a commission for a project in Boston. I'll be there for a week. Can we meet? My heart skipped a beat. He was coming. Here, on my ground. Of course. I'd be glad. I met him at the airport. He hadn't changed. The same calm gaze, the same smile. I showed him Boston. My Boston. The school where I worked. The places I went. He watched, listened, absorbed. The city suits you. You're different here. More confident. This is my home. Paris can be home too. Maybe. But not yet. I understand. On the last evening of his visit, we sat in my apartment. I was cooking dinner, he was helping. You know, he said, chopping salad, I've decided. I won't push anymore. I'll just be here. As a friend, as a colleague, working together. We'll see where it leads. Thank you for understanding. No. Thank you. For not shutting me out completely. Dinner was warm, calm. We talked about work, projects, plans. Like old friends. When he left, he kissed me on the cheek. A little longer than friendship required. But he didn't ask for more. When the door closed behind him, I realized I didn't want him to leave. But I wasn't ready for him to stay either. Another 3 months passed. We kept writing, calling. He flew to Boston twice. I went to Paris for a conference. Slowly, imperceptibly, he became part of my life. My mornings began with his message. My evenings ended with his voice. The support group noticed the change. They wrote that I had grown softer, warmer, that I glowed from within. And then something happened that put everything in place. I was in a car accident. Nothing serious, a mild concussion, a couple of bruises. But there was an ambulance, a hospital, 4 drips. The first thing I did when I came to was call Anton. Not friends, not colleagues. Him. He flew in on the next flight. Burst into the hospital room pale and terrified. I'm fine, I reassured him. The doctors are just being cautious. You could have died. And I wouldn't have had time to say the most important thing. What? That I love you. No conditions, no buts. Just love you. I cried. From relief, from happiness, from realization. I love you too. I was afraid to admit it, even to myself. He held me, gently, afraid to hurt me. We sat like that for a long time, silently. Words weren't needed. I was discharged 3 days later. Anton stayed another week. Took care of me, cooked, just stayed close. Don't go back, I asked on the last night. My work's in Paris. Projects, obligations. What if I go with you? He froze. Are you serious? Yes. The school can wait. Or I'll find a job there. What matters is being together. But Boston is your home. Your friends, your work, the group. Home is where love is. The rest will follow. The decision came easier than I expected. As if I'd been preparing for it all along. The school understood. They said the position would always be waiting if I chose to return. The support group held an online farewell. Hundreds of women wished me happiness. I promised to stay on as a remote moderator. Marina came from my hometown to see me off. You've changed. Become yourself. Your true self. It was a long road. But you made it. You won. Not won. Just learn to live. Paris greeted me with sunshine. Rare for November. Anton rented a bigger apartment. 2 bedrooms, one is my office. The first weeks were all about adapting. New city, new language, new life. But with Anton, everything seemed easier. I found a job at an international school. Teaching Russian to French children. Unusual, fascinating. I continued running the group online. Distance didn't stop me from helping women. 6 months later, Anton proposed. For real. In that same spot in the Luxembourg Gardens. Yes, I answered without hesitation. The wedding was small. Marina came, Jane, even Anna and Andrew. Vera sent her congratulations. James's card arrived too, be happy. You proved it's possible. Strangely, I felt grateful to him. Without that hell, there wouldn't be this heaven. At the wedding, Anna raised a toast to women who aren't afraid to start over. To the strength born from pain. To the love that comes when you least expect it. Everyone raised their glasses. And I looked at Anton and thought how strange life is. 3 years ago, I stood on the roadside with my suitcase thrown out. Betrayed, humiliated, broken. I thought life was over. But it was only beginning. Today I'm 38. I live in Paris, I teach, I help women, I paint. I have a husband who loves the real me. Friends all over the world. Purpose and meaning. And there's one more piece of news I haven't shared with anyone but Anton. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. Terrified and overjoyed at once. Yesterday I had an ultrasound, saw a tiny heart beating on the screen. And I thought, you will be happy, little one. You'll have a family built on truth, without lies or manipulation. Anton cried when he saw the image. Men rarely show emotion so openly. But he didn't hide it. We'll manage, won't we? He asked. We will. We've already overcome so much. That evening I wrote in the group, girls, I want to share something. Life after divorce exists. More than that, it can be happy. Not right away, not easily, but it's possible. The key is not to give up. Replies poured in like an avalanche. Thank you for hope. For being an example. For showing the way. One woman wrote, today I left my abusive husband. I'm sitting on a train with 2 kids and 1 bag. I'm shaking with fear. But your story gives me strength. If you managed, then so can I. I answered, you can. You absolutely can. The first step is the hardest. You've already taken it. I closed the laptop and went to the window. Paris was falling asleep. The lights of the Eiffel Tower shimmered in the distance. Anton embraced me from behind, resting his hand on my still flat belly. What are you thinking about? That none of it was in vain. This whole journey, all the pain. It brought me here. To you, to our baby, to this life. Do you regret the past? No. It made me who I am. Strong. You were always strong. You just didn't know it. Maybe. We stood at the window, looking out at the night city. Somewhere out there in America, James was building a new life with a simple woman. Margaret was serving her sentence for murder. Vera was dreaming of grandchildren. And somewhere, a woman was packing a bag to leave her abusive husband. Another was crying over betrayal. A third was counting pennies until payday because her husband drank the money away. Each of them would have to walk her own path. Painful, frightening, but freeing. And I knew they would manage. Because women are stronger than they seem. We can endure the unbearable. We can rise after falling. We can start over, even when it feels like the end. My story is proof of that. My phone chimed. A message in the group, Sophia, thank you for everything. A year ago I read your story and cried. I thought, if she could, then so can I. Today I signed the contract for my own apartment. Small, but mine. The children are smiling. I'm free. This is happiness I had forgotten. Thank you for reminding me that it exists. I showed the message to Anton. He kissed the top of my head. You're changing the world. One woman at a time. I'm just showing that there's always a way out. That is changing the world. We fell asleep in each other's arms. Tomorrow would be a new day. New stories in the group, new lessons at school, a new sketch from Anton. And in 7 months, a new life would appear, growing in love and truth. As I drifted off, I thought about how ironic fate can be. My husband once threw my bag out of the car we bought together. Humiliated me, betrayed me, chose his mother over his wife. And me? I threw lies, manipulation, and toxic relationships out of my life. And I built a new one. In another country, with another man, with different values. Thank you, James, I thought. For the lesson. For the pain that became strength. For the betrayal that became freedom. Without you, I would never have known what I was capable of. I would never have met Anton. I would never have helped hundreds of women. So thank you. And goodbye. Anton stirred in his sleep and pulled me closer. I smiled, closed my eyes. Tomorrow would be a new day, and with it, a new page in my story. The story of a woman who did not give up, who turned pain into strength, and strength into help for others. And you know what? This is only the beginning. Because as long as there are women who need help, my story continues. In each of them. In every woman who finds the courage to leave. In every woman who starts over. We are bound by invisible threads. Threads of pain and hope, fear and courage, past and future. And together we are a force that cannot be broken. Remember that when it gets hard. You are not alone. Behind you stand thousands just like you. Those who have already walked this path. those who are walking it now, those who will walk it still. And we all believe in you, because we know you will make it, just as I did, just as thousands before me did, just as thousands after you will.